Falcon fans, Falcon fans, Falcon fans, and of course, Falcon fans. You already know what it is. You already know what to do. One time for the fan, checking in episode 184, I think it is. Chase is here with us. T Will's here with us. And of course, we have a special guest getting ready to join us in just a matter of seconds here. Falcon fans, how are y'all doing? Hope y'all feeling good. Hope y'all feeling great. T Will, how's everything going over there for you, sir?
Doing well, brother. Excited to talk some Falcon football with my two brothers here. Obviously, Mr. Jack Spade and Mr. Chase. Hey, man, Chase is always looking out for me, Jack. Chase is always looking out for me.
Hold on a second there. When you introduced Chase, when you said what's up to Chase, Chase did some emote that he. What video game are you playing, Chase? I tell you podcasters get a mic and a light, and you start creating these. What is up, man? Chase, how you doing, man?
Kicking it, man. Just chilling, ready to talk some Falcon football. We got a very special guest today, man. Somebody that definitely follows the Falcons. So ready to talk some Falcon football. And one time for the fans, first mock draft this season. So it's going to be lit, man.
Hey, this is what it's all about. Falcon fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Tag your Falcons friends. Tag your Falcons family. Get them in the chat. You know we love talking Falcons football with everybody. Hashtag one-timers. Hashtag the fan club. Please represent your section, season ticket holders. When you're in here in the chat, please represent your sections because you know we love talking with all of our diehard Atlanta Falcon fans. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get to a special guest who has been here on the channel before. So he's definitely not a newbie here. So this special guest talks Falcons football with everybody 24/7. You can find him on the social media. What's it called? Twix or Twitter or X or whatever they call this thing nowadays. But when you're talking with diehard Atlanta Falcon fans, you have to mention this guy right here. So without further ado, Mr. Scott Karisic is back with us talking Falcons football on One Time for the Fans. Scott! How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Oh, man, we are doing great. We are doing great here at One Time for the Fan. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to come talk Falcons football with us. Once again, this is not your first time here on the channel, and we do welcome you back here to One Time for the Fan. So outside of the Atlanta Falcons, since the last time we talked, I know there's a lot of things going on with the Atlanta Falcons, but how has Scott Karisic been?
I've been good, man. They gave us a nice pay upgrade at work, so I wasn't hating that.
Nice.
No one's ever going to hate that. And
love it.
You know, life's just been good. My wife was like, hey, a couple weeks after the draft, you want to go on a cruise? I was like, yeah, let's go. So we're going on a cruise like 2 weeks after the draft. So
nice.
Vacation time is here for a lot of us in the chat, and a lot of us here on the channel too as well. Where you heading, man? What you got?
It's like one of those like Belize, Honduras, Cozumel cruises on Carnival.
Oh, excuse me. No.
What we always do is Carnival, because
no Key West for you. You're doing the big time over there.
I mean, we're driving down to Miami, so that's 12 hours of our life that we don't get back. But
it is a good little drive for those that have made that drive down to Miami. I'm a road trip type of guy to myself. I enjoy traveling, whether it's 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours. Made the trip to Houston a couple years ago, that Super Bowl. Drove to Chicago for that week 1 game too as well. Chase, have you ever the New Orleans trip was a long distance trip for you too as well, right, Chase?
Yeah, 8-hour trip.
So that's not that bad. Like we kind of have a rule, like 8 hours is 1 day, is our 1 day limit. So like when we're going to Miami, we're gonna stop off in Jacksonville where our parents live. And then we're going to go down. And then on the way back, we're going to stop off where our parents live and then come back. So we take like an extra day off work, so we're not doing 12 hours fresh off a boat.
Nice. And that's great, too, as well. I met the wife in London, so big shout out to the wife, too, as well. T-Will, any long travels that you've had in the past?
Driven to New York once. Just one.
I've done the Charleston to Connecticut once. That was not fun.
Pennsylvania is the furthest I've ever driven. That was a 12-hour drive.
Yeah,
that was a long stretch.
That was a long drive. Had a great time, but that was probably my marathon trip. So
Atlanta to New York is definitely a long trip. Scott, there's one more thing I have to ask you about before we get to this Falcons football. What is it with the Peach Mountain Dew?
Yo,
Shit.
so it's at KFC. It's called Sweet Lightning, and I am a Mountain Dew aficionado. If you will.
Amen.
I love Mountain Dew. I like all the different flavors. I'm not a huge fan of like regular Mountain Dew, but like Baja Blast at Taco Bell. Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
The peach.
Oh
one,
yeah.
It's like Sweet Lightning or whatever at KFC. Surprisingly good. First time I had it was this morning. It was fantastic. I was like, oh hey. I'm a big believer that even if it's a non-alcoholic drink, you can still have some fun with it.
Amen.
You know,
I haven't had the peach drink. I've had the Code Red. So I love the Code Red from Mountain Dew. I like the blue. So now that you put that out there, I got to go check out the peach. I'm going tomorrow to KFC to check it out.
The blue one, the Voltage, that's always good. But honestly, I love the pink one, the watermelon flavor. That's what I buy it by the case. It's fantastic.
You guys are putting me on game right now. I'm just sitting here thinking about, I'm getting ready to go to the store in a minute. Like, should I just make this stop and go grab this? What is it? Sweet Lightning?
Yeah.
So they don't sell it in the store. It's only at KFC.
Yeah. That's why at KFC. Well, KFC's not too far from the house. I might have to make a stop over there. So it's called Sweet Lightning, though.
Yeah, it's called Sweet Lightning. I tweeted about it because I'm like, maybe if I tweet about it and they're like, hey, this guy likes it, but may not like KFC that much because I don't.
I mean, Mountain Dew does listen to the fans. They've made a lot of fan-inspired drinks too as well, right? I mean, they always ask for some type of concept or something that the fans can come up with, right?
I think that's how they came up with the watermelon one. Is all the people that like watermelon. It tastes like a watermelon Airhead, and a Mountain Dew had a baby.
Shit.
Okay.
So when you hear it like that, you're like, oh, that sounds fantastic, and it is. Like,
hey, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, that berry punch from Minute Maid, you don't get it too many places, but that berry punch, hey man, I'm telling you, if you find it, Falcon fans, tag me, tweet me, X, whatever, DM me, say, look, yo, I found the berry punch. The shit's hitting. Just go ahead and just let me know. Just let me know. But I'm going to try that Sweet Lightning too as well. Falcon fans, let's get to some Falcons football. Chat is live. Chat is lit. Ben Wade is in here. Deke Ruffin is up in here too as well. The Falcon Commander, he's always at the home games, at the away games. He's also in the chat too as well. Big shout out to the Falcon Commander. EQRC is also in the chat with the hello Falcon fans. This is great when you got a lot of diehards in here ready to talk Falcons football because they know Sundays and Wednesdays we talk Falcons football. We have our Friday morning podcast. And, of course, we've been doing a lot of pop-up shows, too, as well. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. I want to say thank you. I know Chase wants to say thank you. I know Terry wants to say thank you. And even Scott. Scott has been a part of this, too, as well for about 3 or 4 times. It's Scott, you know how it is as a content creator to bring content and talk to fans and, just remain positive about a team that hasn't won the Super Bowl. They haven't won the big game. They haven't been there in years. And what we're doing on this channel is just trying to remain positive. Scott, how important is that?
It's tough to win the Super Bowl. Like, you don't just need to have a good team that can make the playoffs. You need to have luck. You need to have health. You need to have a little bit of everything. And you might need a guy who can kind of transcend a little bit of that. And that's what the Chiefs have and why they've won.
Appreciate it, crew.
What, 2 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls with Mahomes?
Three.
That's why Brady won like 7 outside of selling his soul. But like,
shit.
I mean, come on.
He's retired. We can say it here.
His baby mama's Bridget Monahan.
We're not going to edit that out, Jason.
His ex-wife is Giselle Bunkin. Like, he won 7 Super Bowls. He's worth probably $1 billion. Like, he sold his soul to the devil. I mean, that's the only thing I can
first. That's a hot take, ladies and gentlemen.
That's not a hot take. I've been saying that for years.
Falcon Commander is heavy on the Peach Mountain Dew, though. I do have to give it to you for that one.
I mean, it's good.
Come on, Falcons fans. This is great. When you're talking Falcons football with Scott Karisic. Look, check this out here. We're getting ready to do a mock draft in a minute. We got to ask Scott some questions here. I know the chat is already live and lit. If we can't get to all your comments or questions tonight, please don't DM me and get mad. You know how it is here on the channel when we have a special guest. We want to make sure the special guest gets his time on the platform so that way we can get his thoughts out or her thoughts, whoever we have on the
I'm open
platform.
to answering as many of them that come in, though. Like,
this is a situation where we're going to ask Scott some questions where fans have been asking us about the cap and about Kirk Cousins and about who do we draft in the first round, second round, what direction are we going, Hassan Reddick. That's why we reached out to Scott to let us know where we can go with this. So bring your questions to the chat tonight so we can get through with this in a positive way here. Falcons fans, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Scott, going to you about Kirk Cousins.
Love it.
The Falcons made the move in free agency to bring in Kirk Cousins as our quarterback who can possibly get us over the hump to take us to where we just talked about, the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Is Kirk Cousins the right fit for the job? Your thoughts on Kirk Cousins with the Atlanta Falcons?
So I had mixed feelings about whether he's going to win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, that should not be the goal for this year because this is not a Super Bowl roster right now.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, right now, this is a roster that you're like, you know what? Let's just get to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just have a winning season. Like, that should be the goal of this roster. Like, this is not a Super Bowl champion by any means right now. Mm-hmm. Is it a better roster than it's been for years? Absolutely. But this Falcons team is not winning no Super Bowl. Not this year.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they go get Hassan Reddick, even if they go do lights out in the draft, unless they're just looking like that 2016 offense and that defense looks closer to 2017 or last year than like any other year we've had, that's the only way they might have a shot. And even then, like, they might get there, but this isn't a team that's beaten the Chiefs. This isn't a team that's beaten it might be the Bills. Like, I think the Bills are going to have a regression. But, like, it's probably not beating the Ravens. It's probably not beating the Chiefs. So that's where I'm going with that. Like, I just don't see a Super Bowl champion this year.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I don't think Kirk can do it. I mean, shit. What's the guy's name that won it with the Ravens?
Nick Foles.
Trent Dilfer. Was it Dilfer? Trent Dilfer?
Yeah, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Is Kirk Cousins a better quarterback than Dilfer? Yeah. Is Kirk Cousins comparable to Flacco when Flacco was going ham in the playoffs? Absolutely. You get the right weapons around him, he'll be fine. Falcons have 3 fantastic weapons for him. They've got a guy who seems to fit what he likes at receiver with Mooney, because Mooney could kind of play that Addison role in a similar offense, because the Vikings, O'Connell's from the same tree as Robinson. So they're both McVay guys, like that McVay branch of the Shanahan branch of the Bill Walsh tree. So, like, when you break it all down, it's like, okay, you've got the same scheme, essentially. Kirk's coming in. He could teach the scheme. They've got the same kind of guys that he's used to from Minnesota. London in that Justin Jefferson role, where he's going up there getting contested catches and just killing it. Like, that's a good fit for London. Putting Mooney in that Addison role really fits. You get like 3 guys who can be KJ Osborne between McLeod and Moore and Hodge.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sleep on Hodge, though. Like, Hodge feels like the kind of guy that could just randomly explode and people
gets
go,
his fair share of sneaky catches here and there. Yeah.
Because he's 6'2", he's about 200 pounds, he runs a 4.4. Like, he's not some slouch as an athlete. He just never really developed as a receiver because he was never given a shot. When he did play receiver last year in heavy action, he looked better than pretty much everybody but London. So it was like, maybe he just needs a real shot at playing that outside Z receiver so that when they do have Mooney or London or even Pitts in the slot, those guys can just have some action. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Hodge end up starting over Moore, or even, I don't think McLeod starts. I think McLeod's a true special teams, like, returner, gunner,
Your depth guy, if somebody goes down, he
That
steps into the
guy.
role. Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe he comes in as a wide receiver 4 when they run their 4 wide receiver sets. But outside of that, I don't even know if he does that. I'd probably have him at wide receiver 5 right now, even behind Hodge, because he's absolutely a special teams guy first. He's like Eric Weems, basically, but like more size and speed. So I mean, they're building an offense so that Kirk can feel comfortable. The offensive line is going to do exactly what it did last year. It's the same 5 guys. It's the same coach designing the run game. He's now the run game coordinator on the offensive line. I mean, I'm just excited to see how they use Bijan or how they use Pitts, because tight end, running back as receivers, you don't see that a lot in the Vikings or the Rams offense. Adding that wrinkle is going to be very fun. So,
Falcon fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Quick for you, Scott. Does Kurt increase the chances definitely of us making the playoffs or winning the division?
Absolutely. He's best quarterback in the division tomorrow. Like, you've got Kirk, and then you've got probably Carr, and then you got Baker, and then you got Bryce Young.
I'm glad you answered that, because I was getting ready to ask that next question. So this is good when you have Scott on the podcast, who's literally answering questions before I'm even asking them. Terry, hearing about what Scott said about Kirk Cousins, if he's right for the job, making the playoffs, winning the division, is Kirk the guy to get us over that hump with this improved roster, or the improvements of the roster that we're trying to make right now?
There's no question about it, without a doubt. What I'm most excited about with Kirk Cousins is 2 things. Number one, you now cannot stack 8 or 9 in the box. You can't do it.
Nope.
There were so many examples last year of folks just daring us to throw it because they knew we couldn't, right? I think one time they actually put 9 or 10 in the box. Like they were daring us to do it. And they knew we were going to run, and we didn't have a choice. So
I know what game you're talking about.
Detroit and Jacksonville was definitely 2 of the games I saw there.
Yes. So you can't do that anymore. So what that means is, number one, that should make the running game better because you can't stack 9 or 8 in the box. And now you give Bijan and Tyler that much room, they're going to take advantage of it. Number 2,
2 guys running for $2,000 combined.
Yeah.
Talk about it, Scott.
Yes. Number 2, Kirk is accurate.
Yep.
Kirk is accurate than we've seen since Matty Ice, or the most accurate, I should say, we've seen since Matty Ice.
I'm pretty accurate too. I throw 80 on the run.
80 on the run.
That's who I would have. That's who I would have compared him to anyway.
Yep.
You know.
Yes, sir.
His career is very Matt Ryan.
Fans get mad when you kind of compare it to Matt Ryan because I guess
there you go, Chase. Rep it, Chase.
Matty is that guy
there
that
you
we
go.
had so many years. So why is it the comparison when you mention Matt to Kurt? Looking at the stats, looking at how they're both pocket passing quarterbacks and what they've done in the NFL. Even the year that we went to the Super Bowl, Kurt put up 4,900 yards.
It's how they win.
Yeah.
So when I'm scouting players, it's how does this guy win? Not what does he look like or what does he run like? How fast is he? Like, how does he win when he's playing? Like when Malik Neighbors is out there and he's busting past defenses, and I'm sitting here like, dude, this is Randy Moss. Like, not saying he's as good, but that's my style comparison. Kirk Cousins, the way he wins with accuracy. He wins with quick reads. He wins with throwing the ball to the right spot and protecting his receivers. I'm sorry, that's Matt Ryan.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
He wins with good, solid footwork, simple, standard mechanics, quick mechanics, delivers the ball on time, lets his receivers make play with it. Like, he's a point guard. And that's all we've needed the last 2 years.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm okay with a point guard who's not going to turn the ball over a ton. Like, every quarterback turns the ball over. Every quarterback, minimum, you're going to get 6-7 interceptions. You're going to get probably 10 fumbles. That's going to happen. but are they going to make the plays to offset those? That's really the issue. Because every quarterback in this league, you can go back and look, all the starting guys had probably 15 turnovers at minimum. Even Mahomes, even the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks had a shit ton of turnovers.
And looking at turnover
that's the
ratio
nature of the position.
is on the positive side, because you're talking about a guy who even went down last year, Scott, 18-5 before he went down.
Because he makes
29-14, 33-7, 35-13, 26-6
passer rating.
Look at the passer rating. Like, you're going to get about 8 or 9 touchdowns before this guy even gets probably incompletion. Just throwing a joke out there, but yeah.
His one bad year was what, 2022? Like
2014 as well. I mean, his rookie year. I mean, kind of. Oh, his
first year starting. Year. But like when you go back and you look at him, like he's a 95 plus passer rating guy.
Yeah.
You put a 95 plus passer rating guy into this offense last year, and the Falcons are probably 12-5.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
That's 5 wins. You add 1 touchdown a game. I'm not saying this offense is going to be, scoring 35 points a game. It's not at that point yet. There's still some pieces missing. However, it could very easily be an offense that scores 25 points a game.
Yes.
Be in the top 10.
Yes. There's been a couple years that he was scored over 30.
But they scored 18 last year.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, an extra touchdown a game adds 5 wins to your total. Now, this year, because the schedule is a little harder, maybe they go 11-6.
Yeah. And also what you won't get is a quarterback going multiple weeks of 12 for 19 for 168 yards.
Well, that's a whole
or
schematic
9
thing
for 15.
too.
Yeah, in a sense, yes, Scott. Yes.
That I blame on Arthur Smith not knowing what the hell he was doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's Pittsburgh's problem now.
Sheesh. And we'll probably see them hopefully early in the season.
I hope we see them week 1.
Look at that. Look at that. Scott is calling on the Steelers week 1.
Knock them out quick. Just be done with them. Plus, I don't see a ton of Falcons fans selling their seats to the Steelers that week. Steelers fans that week.
Not only
week 1.
Not only.
I think Kirk has given the fans enough hope to where season ticket holders feel good about going into these games this year. Chase, Dirty Fanatics United, one time for the fan. You always have talked about Kirk Cousins since the free agency has began, since the offseason started. And it's possible that back before the free agency, Kirk was going to land here. And you talked, man, you was heavy on it. Kirk is now here. You're talking about it on your channel. You talked about it in the chats. You talked about it in the Falcons community. What does Kirk bring to the team for you, Chase? And do you see us not only getting over the hump, but was Kirk also brought in because of the toughness of the schedule? Because we are playing some tough teams this year, and it would have been difficult going with some of the other quarterbacks that were available.
Man, like you said, Kirk Cousins is a guy that I was heavy on before the season even really ended. I knew he was going to be a free agency. The question was, what was that price tag going to be? And was the Vikings going to go ahead and franchise tag him on the last day like they have the past few years? Kirk Cousins, to me, brings a sigh of relief to Falcon fans. The past few years, quarterback play has been below mediocre here in Atlanta. To finally have a quarterback that can deliver the ball to Drake London, Kyle Pitts, finally going to get another quarterback like he had in year 1 with Matt Ryan. And guys, we've seen what he did with a pocket passing quarterback like Matty Ice. I think the sky's the limit for Kyle Pitts this season, and I think that is a must for Kyle this year. I think for Kyle to get that contract extension, we obviously know it's not a huge amount that we're going to have to pay Kyle Pitts heading into his first agreement after his rookie deal. But Kirk Cousins, man, I believe he gets you over the hump. You're the NFC South division leaders. You take it to the playoffs, and I'm not going to go out on the limb and say we're winning the Super Bowl this year. I'm not going to be that guy that does that, but I will say the Falcons have everything I think they need to piece in this draft to get what they need. We talked about the Hassan Reddick. Maybe that's a trade that happens here in Atlanta. Who knows? You get a couple pieces in the draft with, maybe a top cornerback. This draft, guys, is deep with cornerback picks. You can look in the 3rd round and get a cornerback guy that could possibly show some starting.
Corner, wide receiver.
Yeah,
spots in the draft.
Crazy deep this year. Maybe that's something you do if you get a Hassan Reddick on that D line. Maybe that's what you spend your number 1 pick on. I don't know. That's just a questioning. There's a lot of routes. There's so many routes that these Falcons could take. I do agree with a comment that was commented earlier. They said, I believe the Falcons have everything they need to win. They need a new cornerback, maybe another top edge. I think the Atlanta Falcons can make a deep run with Kirk Cousins. Now, that is if we get the Kirk Cousins play style that he does throughout the regular season. We can be honest with ourselves. We've seen Kirk in the playoffs. It's not usually what he does in the regular season. For him to take that hump here in Atlanta with all the weapons he has, and Bijan, whoever else you may add, the Mooney, the Drake London, the Kyle Pitts, I think this offense could be dynamic. Like Scott was saying, I don't think you go out and score 36 points a game, maybe 28 points a game. I mean, it's better than what you've been doing. Winning games here in Atlanta. I just did a win-loss projection on my channel yesterday. The total we came out with, I believe, was 12-5 or 11-6, one of those two. So me personally, I have high hopes for these Falcons. So I think Kirk Cousins definitely brings us over the hump.
So hit that like, share, and subscribe button, Scott.
I guess my big thing with Kirk in the playoffs, right? People talk about Kirk in the playoffs. He hasn't been to that many games. It's kind of like Stafford in the playoffs.
Yep.
So when he has been, he's looked okay, but he also hasn't had the best support from his defenses. His last playoff game completed 80% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Wasn't on him for the loss. We had this in the private chat.
Had a sneak for a touchdown in that. Like scored all 3 of the touchdowns for that team, and they still lost to the Giants that year. And it's like, was that on Kirk, or was it the fact that his defense allowed 31 points?
Yeah.
Like, at a certain point, your defense has to step up, especially when they have the lead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had the lead starting out. They fought back to tie, and then the defense couldn't stop him. Like, that's not all on Kirk Cousins. Your defense has to step up. Your defense has to take ownership and control what they can control. So, again, I compare it a lot to Stafford. Stafford had a lot of bad playoff luck where he was playing well in the playoffs and his team lost. Okay. Shit happens. Matt Ryan had a lot of bad playoff luck those first 5 years in the playoffs.
He did.
Where he was out there and they were scoring 28 points, but the defense allowed 35.
Yep.
Or that game in New York that probably should have been played in Atlanta because Atlanta actually won the division and had a better record. But it was played in New York. Or no, Atlanta didn't win the division, but they had a better record by like 3 games. They were like 11 and 6.
That was the game when we won the safety game when we got just the safety.
Yeah, we had just the safety, and then the Giants were like 8-8. But you go up to a hostile environment, it's going to change your entire situation.
I think that was the year where all that beat us in the playoffs went to go win the Super Bowl too as well.
I think they did. Yeah. I think they did.
But here's the thing:
it was our calling, Chase. It was our calling.
Every team that had a Super Bowl run that era had to go through Atlanta.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
Yeah, every single one of them.
They did.
5 years. And then we get back to the playoffs in 2016, and what happens? We get to the Super Bowl.
Take us down memory lane.
Matt Ryan's entire career is he's either losing to the Super Bowl loser or the Super Bowl champion in the playoffs. Every single playoff loss he has was either the Super Bowl loser or the Super Bowl champion. That's it.
There you go.
So, I'd say it's a little bit of luck. If one ball bounces differently in that game we do not talk about,
you getting ready to
just
talk about
one play changes. One change.
Super Bowl champion, yeah. Devontae makes a block.
Devontae makes a block. They go up 31 to 6 right there. And not anywhere close. I'm not saying 35 to 6. I don't think Belichick throws in the towel, but there's just not enough time in the game for them to score points.
Correct.
This is the part of memory lane where I start to cry on the inside. Terry?
I know that's
okay. What's interesting, Scott, it's funny you say that. I was listening to a podcast, I believe it was Out of Your Falcon Mind, and from a couple of days ago. But one of the podcasters said so much of an NFL player's career, bad or good, is being at the right time on the right team with the right coordinator with the right offensive or defensive coaches.
Yep.
He said, so you can take anybody, right? Like, so there are examples where you'll have a guy that's with a team that is just god awful, and he goes to another team in the right situation and blossoms, right? Or vice versa.
Happens a lot
right?
here in Atlanta.
But correct. But my point is that maybe Atlanta is that place for Kurt, right? Maybe Atlanta with Zach Robinson, with Raheem Morris, with all of the assortment of weapons that we have gathered, is that place that Kurt finally crosses that border.
And I hope it is, because I think that would be fantastic, not just for Kirk. I think it'd be fantastic for this city. I think it'd be fantastic for this franchise. I think this fan base needs a win.
One thing we can say is there's a lot of fans who can look at the team and say, kind of like what Scott said. I've heard it on the radio. I've heard it from podcasters. I've heard it from so many people around the NFL where they're saying, even Rodney Harrison just came out and said, the Falcons will win the NFC South. He likes the team. He loves what we got going on. He didn't say win the Super Bowl. He said win the NFC South.
But here's the thing.
Get over the hump of getting where we need to be from the playoffs to start making this jump, start making the leap in the right direction. So there are fans that are saying, no, this is the Super Bowl run. But then there are some fans that are saying, I'm playing it game by game every Sunday until I see it happen.
So, let's be honest. 2016, we weren't supposed to be there.
There you go.
Let me tell you something. You look at 2016 and around, what was it? I think it was the Seattle game, or mid-season.
Yes, the Seattle game, yes.
When I saw us still passing it up, I think it was like in the fourth quarter, we was up by like 2 or 3 touchdowns, and we're still passing the ball with Shanahan. And I'm like, why are we just beating the shit out of this like on purpose? You know? And then we scored with like our 4th or 5th tight end, like later on in the season. I was like, 53 players are on the same page every single game, and I'm loving this. But when you saw it against Seattle in the divisional playoffs, when you saw it against
Packers,
the Packers,
man, what a beatdown!
Oh my god, bro! Every single play, bro. The Packers didn't have no fucking chance.
No chance
in that game.
No chance.
It felt so good.
And I think Jalen Collins even had like a pick 6 in the first.
Oh my god, Jalen Collins!
And everybody was like, Aaron Rodgers is melting down. And I'm like, no, this Falcons team is that fucking good.
They're good.
Like, their losses were more because Dan Quinn didn't know clock management at that time.
Exactly.
Than anything else. That 2016 team only lost games because Dan Quinn had no good clock management and didn't tell Shanahan to run the damn ball when he needed to run the damn ball.
Yeah.
And that was a theme of that team the entire year.
Amen.
And it came back to bite them.
It did. It did. In defensive, well, there is no defense, but in fairness to the Falcons, in 2016, our center at the time, I can't remember his name, but his leg was broken in
Mack.
Yeah, Alex Mack. His leg was broken.
Mack was hurt. Schrader got hurt in that game. So Compton was there. However, you were still running the ball at 8 yards a clip.
Yes.
And at a certain point, you just run a running play on a 2nd and 6 to run a running play on 2nd and 6 and eat 40 seconds. You do that 6 times throughout this game where they were calling passes on these 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6s.
What
happened?
Alex Mack has got to be the best free agency signing the Falcons have ever made.
What was the thing that they keep saying? It was 3 runs and a field goal when the game's over, right?
I think and that's what I'm referencing at that, because I think Schrader went out either the series before that or right at that series.
So that series, they also missed a face mask.
We did.
Where Mohamed Sanu had the Patriots defender face mask him while he caught the ball. It was egregious and right in front of the ref. And I'm sitting here, I was sitting there like, call the penalty. That's a face mask.
15 yards.
And instead of it being, what was it, 3rd and 20 after a holding call, it would have been back to 3rd and 10.
Back holding calls.
And you could have just run the ball there and kicked the field goal after that, and it would have been fine.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. When Julio catches that pass, which, by the way, was one of the greatest passes that Matt Ryan has ever thrown, and one of the greatest catches that I've ever seen. Because he put it where only Julio can get it, and those of you that watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. But when he makes that catch right there, I would have kneeled 3 times and then kicked the field goal.
I would have called like fullback blast or like halfback blast, like right up the middle. Just 3 times. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
My view is still try and get a first down. Try and get that first down. Like try to run as much clock out as you can, and then if you get stopped, then you finally call the field goal.
Yes.
But take your timeouts away from them, run the ball, and just pound them.
Right down the middle.
Lane. I would have put friggin' Austin Hooper in the backfield running the ball, just like pounding with like the biggest dude you have,
2-3 yards,
right in the middle.
Absolutely,
offensive lineman up front. Like,
didn't we have Poe at the time?
We didn't have Poe.
No, we didn't have Poe.
I would have had Grady at fullback, like
Freeney was the
and then just been running with Grady sometimes. Like, Grady, come on, just hold on to the ball. Just run it. And then
just run it.
Push from behind by like Tevin Coleman. Like,
Falcon fans.
Yeah. Honestly,
go ahead, sir.
But I agree with you. Dan should have said, "Kyle, we're running the ball." I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He should have taken the play calling out of his hand right then and there. Been
like, agreed.
Hey,
agreed.
I got this.
Agreed.
I understand what you want to do, but this is too crucial.
This is for history. This is for history. It's for it all.
Leaving it in your hands. As much as I trust you,
right?
The plays in, and then they were snapping it at 15. I would have been like, Matt, hold that damn ball till you see 3 on the play clock.
So here's the cool thing here. Now, as you mentioned that, Terry, remember this picture I told you about?
Yep.
When I was in the room that day for the fan interview, Raheem talked about this. The revenge, bringing a championship back, bringing a championship to Atlanta. He wants this for Atlanta.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
He's in the right position. Now, how can we fix what happened that year to now?
Go get the ring.
There's a lot of things, Chase, and you mentioned
the ring.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we have to do to get back to that. Scott, there is a guy who is a phenomenal talent in the NFL who fans are saying that there has to be some type of trade coming up with the Falcons because
we haven't attacked.
What happened, Case?
I said, give me good news, Scott. I heard the blow, the sigh.
There's rumors about Hassan Reddick. Fans in the chat want to hear this. Is it possible we can get this guy? Talk about this cap space. How can we fix the defensive side of the ball? Last year, you saw we've upgraded the quarterback position. I'm sure we're going to attack that in the draft too as well with the wide receiver, maybe another running back. But how can we get this guy, Hassan Reddick, with the cap space that we have right now, Scott? Fans want to know because people are saying, no, we can't get this guy. There's no way possible we can get this guy. Scott, your thoughts?
So opening cap space is probably the easiest thing the Falcons could do if they really wanted to right now. Mm-hmm. They've got $1.2 million in cap space, right? Mm-hmm. That's where they're at, roughly. We don't know the full details on the Ray McLeod deal just yet. Once those get put into the system, probably tomorrow, we'll know exactly. But if they want to open up space, there's like 3 moves they could make that would instantly open up probably $20 million. You cut Ade Ogundeji and Mike Hughes. That frees up a combined $7 million right there. Mm-hmm. You do what's called a simple restructure on the Chris Lindstrom contract. Mm-hmm. That opens up $9 million right there. We're already at $16 million open.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's your draft class now.
No, your draft class only costs you 4.
That's right. Yes.
So like a lot of people are like, oh, you need $10 million for the draft class. No, you need like 4. Mm-hmm. The way the top 51 rule works, you need $4 million and you're good. Because you're really only accounting for the bonuses and a minimum salary. The minimum salary gets washed out by all the other salaries. So you're really just accounting for the bonuses that you pay your draft class.
Scott's a numbers guy. Glad to have him here. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the way that works with the top 51 rule. Mm-hmm. And then when you start cutting guys in camp, like there's going to be some guys that just get cut because they're just not performing. Yeah. And, you might have a guy who you're expecting on this roster, but like, I don't know. Let's just throw a name out here and say Richie Grant isn't performing in camp. with the new coaches, they trade him away for a 5th round pick next year in 2025, which is fine, but that'll open up $3 million in cap space.
Yep.
So that's why you make a move like that. So when that happens and you make these moves and you're opening up the space, the other move you make is you extend AJ Terrell.
Yeah.
Because if you extend AJ Terrell, right now Terrell's counting $12.3 million to the cap. If you extend him and you make his cap hit like $4 million, $5 million this year, give him like a $20 million bonus over 5 years. It pays out now, so it's actually counting over those first 5 years, and $4 million of his cap hits bonus. Give him the minimum 1.1 salary. His cap hits $5 million. But from 12 to 5, that's $7 million. You're at 23 now. So again, you could do that very easily. Have Terrell just extended for a long time and be good to go. So that's the kind of thing that I would look into. Bates, they got
Matthews, Grady, restructuring.
So you could restructure those guys. You could restructure Matthews. You could restructure Bates. You could restructure Grady. I personally wouldn't restructure any of those because cap health long term is important. And those are not guys that long term you want to worry about their contracts. Yep. You just want them to come in, play, and get paid.
Yep.
If I'm looking
trying to kick the can down the road.
Yeah, I'm not kicking the can down the road on a 31-year-old Grady or a 31-year-old Jake or even a 27-year-old Jesse Bates with 3 years on his deal. That's pointless. You're just going to hurt your next 2 years. The other move that I might do is I might extend Taylor Heineke, minimize his salary this year, give him like a $2 million bonus, and then if he's cool with it next year, he'll make like $6-7 million. Because if you're going to keep him, you might as well keep him at like a $6 million cap versus a $9 million cap. You know, there's ways you can pinch pennies around this roster. Extending some of these guys is not the best way to do it. You know, restructuring some of these guys is not the best way to do it. So I personally would just do the simple restructure on Lindstrom. That's your smartest move. Cut those other two guys, Hughes and Ogundeji. And then if you do bring in a guy like Hassan Reddick, I cut Carter. Because I don't think you need Carter when you have Ebiketie, Malone, and a draft pick as your top 4 guys in a rotation with Reddick. Now, Reddick's probably going to cost you your 3rd round pick at the minimum.
Yep.
If not a 3rd round pick this year, you're probably looking at, if not just a 3rd round pick this year, you're probably looking at the 3rd round pick this year, maybe a 4 next. Maybe you get like a maybe it's like a 4th round pick next year and the 3rd pick this year. Or you might even have to give up your 2nd round pick this year for a 31-year-old Hassan Reddick that you're going to have to extend on a contract. Personally,
so you're giving us breakdowns of how we can get Hassan Reddick and make some. We can still get some money back through doing some small restructures without even touching Grady, without even touching.
I wouldn't touch Grady or Jake or Bates. Those contracts to me are fine the way they are. Leave them. After this next season, you extend Grady and open up room for that year for 2025. After next season, you look at Jake and say, "Hey, Jake, you got 1 more year in you, 2 more years in you, 3 more years in you. Let's figure this out, and then we'll go from there." Those guys,
Jake retires a Falcon. Grady retires the Falcon. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
but like those
I see
guys
you were going with that too as well. And this is great.
So that's the long-term planning model. You've already got those contracts locked in. Just leave them. You've been planning around them for so long and building your team around those deals specifically since you got here in 2020, if you're Terry Fontenot. 2021, sorry, if you're Terry Fontenot. So just leave them. You've already done what you were going to do with them. So stick with your plan. His money plan has been impeccable. I'm also giving you what I think he's going to do as well. I don't see Ogundeji lasting on this roster for $3.2 million.
I couldn't even pronounce his name until like week 9, so I understand. Yeah.
I don't see Hughes sticking on this roster for $2.75 million and a $1 million roster bonus due in camp. I just don't see it happening. That's going to be restructured or cut. But I think they want to have guys in-house before they make those cuts. Or at least have a plan for a guy in-house before they make that cut. I do think the Lindstrom restructure is just going to be one of those automatic, like, hey, we're processing the paperwork. We need the space. That's the way those always happen. They just process the paperwork. Chris Lindstrom gets a big old check for his salary this year, and then there's open space. And players don't care about it. They'll sign that simple restructure all day because they get a big fat check all at once. And it helps the team.
Fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Going to Chase here, you're hearing what Scott is saying about the cap space. And for Falcon fans that were talking, I guess, in, Falcons communities and different, groups about we cannot bring in the draft class and acquire Hassan Reddick. It's not happening. Scott just broke down how it can happen there for you.
Well,
and I'm telling you, go ahead, Scott.
And the thing is, if you bring in Hassan, you have to re-sign him to a deal anyway. That's why they want to trade him.
Yeah.
Because he wants a new deal. That's why he was like, listen, that's why they were like, hey, we're going to trade him. He's like, I don't want to be traded. I want a new deal.
Right.
I could see Reddick getting traded, coming here, being super pissed off, and at the same time being like, all right, let's be headhunters. Let's just destroy everybody and being that vocal leader that the pass rush needs. And a guy like Arnold Ebiketie would be like, hell yeah, let's go. And start killing it. And then Malone takes off in camp, and people are like, oh, this is D'Angelo Malone? Okay. Boom, let's take off. And then whoever they draft takes off in camp, and then boom. Oh, man, they've got 4 killers coming off the edge.
Yeah.
If you bring in a guy like Reddick, that's the move. That's why the move of Reddick makes sense. Because it's like putting DeMarcus Ware on that mid-2000s Cowboys team with Anthony Spencer and those other guys that were just kind of okay. But when you put Ware out there and you got that premier pass rusher, you got that beast. It's like it's like when 2006, when the plan was to bring Abraham here. It was like, yeah, we got Kearney, we got Coleman, they're great. But now we got Johnny Abe, and he's a maniac. So,
Scott, I have a question for you.
Side.
Not to cut you off, but I'm so excited that you're here because I have a few questions to ask. First and foremost is, it seems as though the Saints every year are 20, 30, sometimes 40 million over the cap. And by the time it's time to go, they've signed 5 folks and they've done some wheeling and dealing, and they're just under the cap. So my question to you is, when is a situation untenable? In other words, when is there ever a situation where you're in cap hell and there's nothing you can do versus their situation where every year they're able to maneuver out of it?
They are in cap hell, though. They're paying 12 guys who are over the age of 30 over $10 million.
Okay.
And then they're scheduled to pay those guys in 2025, and they're scheduled to pay those guys in 2026, and they're scheduled to pay those guys in 2027. Like, at a certain point, even when a player retires, if a player retires, like, just truly just says, screw it, I'm out, I'm not playing anymore,
Eddie Goldman,
like a Marshawn Lattimore or an Alvin Kamara.
Jeez.
Honestly, Cameron Jordan, if he retires tomorrow, screws their cap for next year. Absolutely just demolishes it. They're needing Cameron Jordan's 35 years old, 36 years old?
He's like 47.
Play another 3 years to not be absolutely decimated for one of those years in cap. That's the way his contract is structured. It is one of the worst contracts I've ever seen an NFL team give a player because it doesn't give them any flexibility. And people talk about the Matt Ryan contract, and that's why we couldn't compete and all that. No, we couldn't compete because Thomas Dimitroff wasn't drafting well. You can have a big quarterback contract if you draft well. If you know how to sign these budget free agents that make an impact the way Bud Dupree did for $3 million, the way Calais Campbell did for $6.5 million. I mean, yeah, you paid him $1 million per sack, but whatever, that's fine for a guy like Calais Campbell because he also taught Zach Harrison had to go out there and get 3 sacks.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I look at.
Falcon fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Chase, the cap space. You're hearing it from Scott. We can get Reddick. We can bring in our draft class, and then we can still make some small moves after that without even touching some of the star players' contracts on this team. You talked about it on your channel too as well. We talked about it in the chat. How does this make you feel, Chase, when you're hearing from so many people now closer to the draft and closer to maybe a Hassan Reddick move that we have the money, we just haven't made the moves yet?
Yeah, it's go ahead, Scott.
We may have made the moves, they just haven't been reported yet, too, for some of these restructures.
Yes.
So, like, I think there's probably a Heineke, there's probably a Lindstrom, and there's probably a Terrell. Those 3 moves that I was talking about, where maybe you extend and restructure Heineke a little bit, I think that's been in the works. I think there's a move with Terrell where they're extending him that's been in the works. I think there's a move with Lindstrom that's been in the works, and maybe it hasn't been announced. And maybe the team is closer to about 15, 16 million under, and we just don't know it yet.
Yeah. And Chase, I know you're getting ready to answer the question too as well. Remember the Taylor Heineke situation last week? We talked about it on the channel Friday. Came out of the weekend. They had already made the moves to, make Taylor Heineke, the roster bonus and making him the QB2. Chase, your thoughts on the cap space?
Just like Scott said, man, there's ways to move the money and make things happen here in Atlanta. Shout out Jeremiah Williams. Just the fact that you could get a Hassan Reddick, guys. I mean, you haven't had a single person over 10 sacks since Vic Beasley with his 15.5 in 2016. Hassan Reddick has put up 11 sacks at least the last 4 seasons, with a career high in 2022 with 16 sacks, I believe it was. So this guy has done something consistent, and that is get to the quarterback, and that's something we need here in Atlanta. So to possibly get a Hassan Reddick with like a Zach, our young guys that are progressing here in Atlanta, and Ebiketie, to see Malone get some playing time, a guy that's kind of set the bench for a while since he's been here in Atlanta. Would love to see him see some shine out of Malone. Like he said, the guys that you draft are so key to a successful season. You look back at the 2016 season, you had so many rookies on that defense side of the ball, offense as well, with Austin Hooper. That was a big, big commitment to that 2016 season. So young guys is how you build and get your team back to the Super Bowl. So definitely would love to see some money moved around with some restructures. Like you mentioned, the Lindstrom restructure, he's a long-term situation. So that, to me, is the smartest move. So to make things like that happen, man, it's going to come to, maybe in a couple of weeks or so, we see a Hassan Reddick in Atlanta, and I think everybody's draft board changes once that move happens.
It also wouldn't shock me. It also wouldn't shock me to see them bring back Calais Campbell.
My next question
is the one I'm waiting on.
Is this a Calais Campbell move? If you don't get Reddick, you might look at Campbell and Bud, or do you just go ahead and just?
It doesn't matter what you do with the rest of the team. It doesn't matter what you do with the rest of the team.
Bring him back.
Okay.
You try to bring back Calais Campbell. If Calais wants to play, you say, "Hey, you want to play in 2024? You need to come play for us in 2024. We love you here. We loved having you last year. I know it's a different scheme, but come on, you've played in this 3-4 before. It's a similar scheme to what you played in Arizona.
Yeah.
You had some of your best years in Arizona. You're just going to be playing 5-tech again like you did last year. Let's have you play 5-tech again this year. We may rotate Harrison a little bit more because you're getting up there in age. So maybe you guys are more 50-50 this year.
Right.
But, like, you and Harrison have that good rapport. Like, you're building him, he's building you. And those 2 guys could combine from their spot for 12 sacks.
Yeah, says Campbell himself 6 sacks. I mean 6 or 6.5.
Yeah, Campbell had 6.5, but say this year Harrison takes the next step, he gets 7,
and that
Campbell
was
may
3
take a step back, and he gets 5.
Yep.
And you're also mentioning what you said, Scott.
Got 12 sacks from your 5-tech spot.
You're getting, but like you said, you go draft a guy, and if you get a Reddick, now you got 3, 4, 5 guys on your team. It's like we're just bringing pressure everywhere.
And here's the thing: it's not just guys, it's spots where you have guys.
Yes.
Because at your 3-tech on the weak side, you're going to have Grady Jarrett, you're going to have David Onyemata, you're going to have Taquan Graham rushing from there. You're going to have a lot of times you're running 2 3-techs like they did last year. So you're going to have Graham, you're going to have like Onyemata and Jarrett coming in as 3-techs. You're going to have your 5-tech on one side with, Campbell or whoever, Campbell or Harrison. You know, you're gonna have those rotational guys like London who did a good job.
London.
Some
Contavious
fans said
Street did a
unleash
good job.
Ellis and Troy Anderson in those outside linebacker roles. Would you do that, Scott?
No, Ellis and Anderson are inside guys.
All day.
Those are inside guys all day. And then when you have your outside guys, you have Ebiketie, you have Malone.
Yeah,
you have that speed. Like, I don't see a situation. I mean, honestly, Carter's fast too, but I don't see a situation where you're out there putting Ogundeji and having him rush the passer. But you bring in Reddick, Carter's role goes to 10% of the snaps. You don't really need Carter at that point. So you let him walk. And you go with Ebiketie and Reddick as your guys. And even if you draft a guy first round, even if you take a guy at 8 overall, like a Dallas Turner, he's playing 40% of the snaps that first year. Because you want him to learn and grow and get better. You don't want him to be thrown to the friggin' wolves.
Yes.
So you let that guy build up and become that awesome pass rusher that he can be. And you just start him out. Hey, babe, your job, 3rd and 10, get after the quarterback.
And that's been the problem, Scott. The past few years, people harp on the bad pick at number 8. The situation that you just spoke on, these guys that we've drafted at 8, they've had to be the guy to be the top sack leader of the defense. Finally, you have a defense with other playmakers that can fill that role and let a rookie do what a rookie needs to do, progress.
Yeah. You got to learn how to play the run in the NFL. You got to learn how to play the pass in the NFL. You got to learn sometimes you got to learn how to cover depending on the scheme. Now, I don't see Lake running a lot of coverage from his 34 outside linebackers. Michael Hecht, his job, attack the quarterback, attack the running back. That was his job as an outside linebacker. You give that same role to Ebiketie. You give that same role to Malone. Have those two guys rotate in a 60-40 split on that side. Watch them have fun. Neither one of those guys needs to be in coverage. On the flip side, Carter playing that strong side backer. Or even Hassan Reddick playing that strong side backer. Let him get after the quarterback, get after the run. You drop those guys in the coverage at most 80 times all year. 80 times over 17 games is like 4 or 5 snaps a game you're dropping your linebacker. That's how you need to run your defense. That's how Lake actually has been running his defense. His edge rushers do not drop into coverage unless it's a zone blitz and he's sending both his mics.
And that's
or he's sending a safety.
That's where McKinney really got his sacks last year, coming off the edge in the stand-up position. No coverage at all, just straight rush.
Yeah, just straight blitzing off the edge. That was Ebiketie's bread and butter. 3rd and 10, Ebiketie just turned it on. All of his sacks were either 3rd and 10 or 2nd and 10. And all of his sacks except for one were 3rd and 10 or 3rd and long. Like, that is Ebiketie's, like, he's getting after that quarterback. He's going to hit that quarterback. And he missed 2 sacks in that situation last year, too. If he gets 2 more sacks, the Falcons are in the playoffs last year.
That's true. Falcon fans. Matter of fact, he was on the Kyler Murray last play. He almost sacked him. That was when Kyler Murray dipped around. That was Arnold, and I think it was Graham that was going for the tackle.
That Kyler Murray sack, and then the Josh Dobbs sack. Those 2 sacks.
Yeah.
If he makes those 2 sacks, that's 2 wins, and he knows it. And from that point on, he didn't miss another sack all year. When he was in position to.
Falcon fans, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. We're getting ready to do the mock now. So any questions you have for Scott, please bring it to the chat so we can get it into Scott. Terry? That was Terry?
I have one more, man. Scott. Like I said, Scott, I've been waiting on you, man. I'm excited to be here with you.
Scott's got the Peach Mountain Dew. We're good. He's jacked up.
I hear you.
Peach Lipton.
Ricky Bobby.
There you go. Scott, are there any contracts right now that the Falcons have that concern you going forward as far as the future is concerned?
Shout out to Nick.
Kirk? No, he's fine.
Shit.
Honestly, that's the only one that's that's the only one that's potentially bad, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Contract is fine. Grady's contract.
Terry's done a great job.
The thing for me with Grady's contract is not this year. It's after this year. When he's got 1 year left, he'll be 32 years old. Do you extend him?
Man, you want to see a Grady retire in Atlanta.
Hold on, Chase.
Because you want him to retire here. But do you extend him
talking about Grady's
for 3 or 4 years
Yeah, all right,
You know?
I'll call you later.
You gotta
Nah, he's
have.
good.
I
He's good.
understand
He's
what
good.
Scott's saying. You gotta have
You
a good
extend him
season
for
out of
3 or 4
Grady. You
years,
gotta have
or
production. Yeah.
so you got to see what Grady does this year coming back from
Yep.
his first major injury.
Yeah.
I'm expecting Grady to come out, probably have 4 or 5 sacks,
Yeah.
create
Yes, sir.
penetration, create havoc in the middle, be Grady Jarrett, and just be
Get
like,
back to the playoffs.
I'm Grady. Like, I'm good. I'm a Falcon. Like, this is
Yeah.
what I do.
Mhm.
I was born a Falcon. I'm going to die a Falcon. I'm Grady Jarrett.
Do you
Like,
think Grady and Jake knows they're Falcons for life at this point?
oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I would hope so. Yeah, he would hope so.
Jake is a lot like his dad, too. Like, Jake might take less money
To see this
after
team
this year just to be like, listen, I'm going to stick in Atlanta for my whole career.
Mhm.
If I need to take a little bit less, I'll take a little bit less because I want to win.
Yeah, just
I
having a
lose
fresh baby, settling down in Atlanta.
I don't see
love
Jake
Career.
playing. I don't see Jake playing after the last year on this deal.
Okay.
I agree with that. That's why I think
I think he's
Joe
going to
Alt,
retire.
Scott-
Like,
Joe Alt.
if Alt is there at 8, I have no problems with the Falcons taking him because he reminds me with his film of Jake Matthews.
Yep.
Great pass blocker, needs some work in the run game, right?
Mhm.
Athletically, he compares to like if Jake Matthews was 6'8", 325 pounds, that's Joe Alt. Like athletically, that's Joe Alt. Like he's got the athleticism to play left tackle in the NFL. I would take Joe Alt at 8 every single day. I have no problems with saying that. I think just like Jake Matthews, he's going to be the same kind of like at worst top 15 left tackle in the league.
Yep.
At best, he's a Pro Bowler. And honestly, with left tackle, you just need a stable, above average player, and your line can look like the best line in the league.
Yep.
As long as your left tackle is above average. You need a top five right guard. You need a good above average center. You need a good above average left guard. You need a good above average left tackle. If everybody on your line is above average, it raises the whole thing. And more importantly, if they've got good chemistry together and they play as a unit, that's the most important thing. So the fact that we've got all 5 starters returning, they're all coming back this year. They're probably all coming back next year. Because I don't see a situation where they say, Drew Dahlman, we're not going to re-sign you after this year.
How do you think McGarry does? Just a question for Scott. McGarry in the passing game with a pocket passer and Kirk Cousins. How do you think? I mean, we obviously know he's a good run blocker, but passing.
I think pass blocking for McGarry has been a slow burn. He has gotten better. He still needs to shuffle his damn feet more. That is his biggest issue, is his footwork. And I don't know if he gets winded and gets lazy at certain points in the game, or if he's just like, man, this guy can't throw the damn ball. Why am I blocking?
True.
But you don't realize that, but like offensive linemen think like that. But if an offensive lineman knows, man, if I just give this guy 4 seconds,
right,
he's good. He'll go out there and give him the best damn 4 seconds every play that he can give him. And if he gets beat, it's just because he got beat. It's not because he didn't have the effort. It's just because he got beat. And that happens. Every lineman gets beat. Period.
And to piggyback off of that, look at the tape of Von Miller when he mentions how he studies offensive linemen when he's getting ready to rush the quarterback. He knows from the footwork of how the lineman is standing what it's going to be, what series they might be running, how he's able to get past this offensive tackle to get to the
every good defensive lineman
has that. Yeah.
Every good pass rusher has that plan coming in. They don't just study that. They study how they use their hands, how they're going to hit them. Do they hit them like this? Do they hit them like this? Do they hit them like this? Like they study everything. Do I need to focus on doing a cross chop? Do I need to focus on dipping under the outside because they can't handle my speed? What's the best way to go here? So it's very technical. They're always going to look for any advantage they can.
You're hearing it from not only a fan, but somebody who just studies the game. I mean, Scott has went so far to mention from the cap space to Hassan Reddick to Kirk Cousins, and of course, Jimmy Lake and the type of defense he runs, how he uses his pass rushers, how he uses some of his players in the secondary. You're looking, Scott, it's great that you're here, man. And I do thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk Falcons football with us. We knew we was going to get over an hour because the last time Scott was here was like over 2 hours. Scott, I saw you in London when we had our talk at the Falcons party. stepped outside and had a little conversation on YouTube there. And then I saw you randomly at Buckingham Palace. It's funny. Falcon fans are traveling all over London.
We were at Buckingham Palace.
Bro, it's so random. I'm taking pictures outside
like,
Buckingham Palace and I look over and I'm like, is that Scott? Like just random. Like, how do you see somebody outside of Buckingham Palace?
We were
a Monday afternoon.
We took the whole week. We were like, shoot.
Yeah.
I was like, my wife has always wanted to go to London.
Yep.
I've always wanted to go to London. The Falcons are playing there.
Yeah.
So let's go and take a London trip and then have one day dedicated to the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we go to like some of the party stuff that's like in London because why not? We don't know the bars. So we went to like the official parties and stuff, but shoot, why not? And then we see Jack there and I'm like, oh, hey, that's Jack. What's up?
Just in the middle of like what was that? The green what garden was that? I don't even know what garden that was behind.
Dude, I couldn't even tell you. It's the one that's right outside Buckingham Palace.
I'm sure Jack had the teacup. Jack had the teacup with his pinky sticking out.
Bro, let me tell you something. London gives you the vibes. No, I mean, Scott, we were dripped out. I mean, you got to be dripped in London. Like London drip is a little bit different here, ladies and gentlemen.
It was
like,
also kind of cold the whole time there too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I wasn't cold because I keep my house at like 65, but like, I know I'm cold blooded, but my family's Russian, so we like that.
But fans, you're getting the chance to experience a game out of the country. You're seeing the Falcons play. I mean, I understand the Falcons lost to the Jags the day before, but for fans like me and Scott, there's other things to do. Like I wasn't going to sit in the corner and cry for the next 4 days until I make it back to Atlanta.
It was a regular season game against an out of conference opponent. You think I really give a shit about
early?
Like it was a week 3 loss to in a regular season game to an out of conference opponent. Like I'm not super worried about losing to the Jags in week 3, week 4. Like, whatever, who cares? Like, that's not a big deal to me. Like, we were 2-2 at that point. Oh no, we were 500. Like, I wasn't losing my shit over that game. Did it explode some holes? Yeah, it did. But like, I knew the next week they were going to come back and just get back to it and do their thing.
Man, that's what it's about, Falcon fans. When you're looking at the team where some fans are jumping to week 17 right now, right? Let's take it 1 week at a time, but just know that this team is improving.
Draft yet, let alone training camp. Come on now.
Yeah. And Falcon fans, we love our team. And shout out to Grand Canyon, Alabama. Scott, a sidebar question. March Madness is going crazy. Do you have a team? Is your bracket busted?
Anybody's
Grand Canyon is creeping up on Bama right now.
I went to the Citadel.
Okay.
I am not a basketball fan.
Okay.
I had somebody, they were like, listen, why don't you watch the WNBA? And I was like, dude, I don't watch the NBA. Why would I watch the WNBA? I don't watch the NBA. Why would I watch college basketball? Like, I really just don't care about basketball in general. I think I watched like maybe an hour of the last game in the finals last year. And it was because it was on at the house I was at. For like a party or something. And that was the only reason why I even watched part of it, because I was like, oh, we got five of my friends all chilling around the TV. All right, I'll grab a beer and hang out. Like
for the moment.
Like I don't care. I didn't care what was going on TV.
Yeah.
I don't like basketball like that. It's just never been my favorite sport.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's just too consolidated to like 3 teams every year.
Who's taking it, Jack? Who's taking it?
So
my bracket, I don't have a bracket. I just pick one team. It's Gonzaga. You know, but Gonzaga plays the toughest match they've probably ever played in the past 10-year span on Thursday. And if they can somehow get past Purdue, they can probably win this tournament. Chase, is your bracket busted?
I didn't even put a bracket in because the past 3 years has been busted after week 1. So
same.
That's off the shelf.
Any team that you're looking for to say, hey, this team's playing good, maybe they make the finals? I mean, Grand Canyon is beating number 4 Alabama right now.
I hope not. My wife is going to be so mad.
Shit.
My wife's a Bama fan, so like her bracket is like Bama going all the way, winning the whole thing. Like
Scott,
I went to the Citadel. I'm big school agnostic. Okay, my team is the Citadel.
I had to ask you a question, guys. Can fans have a team in college football of a school, but not be the fan of them in college basketball? Is that possible? Like, is your wife an Alabama fan for college basketball and college football, or can fans say that they're Alabama fans, but they're Syracuse fans in basketball, or they're
Did
Duke
you go
fans?
to the school?
Huh?
Did you go to the school?
No.
Eric called him straight.
If you went to some small school and your school's like Division II, you can claim whoever the hell you want for whatever you want, right?
There's a lot of Georgia fans who didn't go to Georgia either.
Yeah, there's a lot of Alabama fans who didn't even get into college. What's your point? Like,
yeah.
Like,
Well,
I mean, what about Falcon fans who are Laker fans? How are we going?
Those are Kobe fans who grew up in Atlanta during the Dick era.
Right now.
What are we talking about here? That's
my
a
brother.
Laker Falcons fan.
Yeah,
my younger
brother,
brother's a Falcons Lakers fan. He's
mine too.
Kobe Bryant fan, and just stuck with the Lakers from Kobe Bryant on.
Okay,
Kobe.
And that he likes the Lakers because it's Kobe's team, and Kobe was his favorite player, and Kobe this. I know more stuff about Kobe from my brother chirping in my ear all the time about it than I wish to admit.
Because I know a Falcon fan who's a Diamondbacks fan in baseball.
Did he grow up in Arizona?
And there, he's a Bruins fan for hockey. He's a, he has his.
So
fan.
hold on. We don't have a hockey team in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So you can pick whatever you want. I root for the Avs in hockey because my sister lives in Denver, and that's her team.
So Jack, who's your college team?
That's it.
The question had to be directed towards you.
It was me and Eric Parker going back and forth in the chat about he knows how big I am with the dogs. And then he was like, so what about your college basketball team? I said, I've been rocking with Gonzaga for a long time now. He said, traitor. I said, traitor how?
That's not being a traitor, though, because Gonzaga doesn't have a football team.
Yeah, and then Gonzaga's, not to mention, Gonzaga's not even like the greatest NCAA basketball team. I've been a Gonzaga fan since I'm talking Adam Morrison, bro. Like who's an Adam Morrison fan, bro? You know what I'm saying? Chet Holmgren.
Do you know the last time? Do you know the last time Gonzaga played football? 1941.
Wow.
So you can say you're a Gonzaga fan, and because Gonzaga doesn't have a football team, oh my God! All right, that's why I'm a Georgia fan.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
So hey, guys, real quick, my brother, and I'm surprised he did not bring it up. I'm surprised. You know what? I got to give him props because I thought he was going to bring it up.
Eric Parker.
But my brother and I have I would say maybe a 20-year feud going back, right? And here's why. So my brother and I are both from Alabama. Okay. Both from Alabama.
What part?
Now, I'm from Montgomery.
Okay.
He's from Mobile.
He's an Auburn.
Okay.
He's an Auburn.
Our father is. I'm sorry. I'm from. Yeah. Our father is from Mobile. My mom is from Montgomery. So my family. Now I'm getting ready to explain, and it's probably not going to make sense, and I'm probably going to get ridiculed for this. My family roots for the Crimson Tide. Okay,
I would assume so.
Eric roots for Auburn.
Yep.
Right. Now
that's a fun Thanksgiving.
You see where this is going, right?
My wife's a Bama fan. I already see where this is going.
I grew up a Bulldogs fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. When Georgia is not playing, I'm going to preface this again. When Georgia is not playing, or if Georgia is not in the equation, let's say we've lost and Bama is playing, I have rooted for Alabama.
There is nothing wrong with that. That is not a real rivalry.
Eric tells me that I am a traitor. Now, funny story, okay?
Because he's an Auburn fan.
Funny. Well, hold on. No. It gets better, Scott. So my brother and I have a good relationship until Auburn and Alabama play each other. We don't go at it when Georgia and Auburn play each other. But when Auburn and Alabama play each other, there it goes right there. You see it coming. But when Auburn and Alabama play each other, for that week, we don't talk. And here's why. Do you remember the infamous game where Alabama kicked the field goal and Auburn ran it back, right?
Yeah, I was covering that game.
All right. So I think Georgia was already out of it. Anyway, he and I are on the phone, and I am talking so much shit to him. Like I'm just going in. right? And Nick does what Nick does and kicks that field goal. And I'm watching this guy run it up, right? And my brother's laugh gets more sinister and sinister and sinister as we begin to see what's going on. I've never heard, like, this man is evil. I've never heard him laugh like this, right?
Your brother wants to know, why are you telling this story right now?
His brother sounds like Megamind.
You know what? Because the fans deserve to know how sinister my brother is. So anyway, at the end of this game, right? Because obviously they win, right? He sends me this text. I'm not even going to repeat what it said, but it was so evil. Yeah. It was just evil, right? And after that, we don't even talk the week they play each other. But my whole point, Eric Parker, and I'm talking to you. Let me look in the camera. Eric Parker, I'm talking to you. I forgot my point. Shit. Anyway, my point is you can have two loyalties.
Call him out.
You can have two teams, Eric. It's okay. Everybody knows I rep Atlanta. I rep all Atlanta teams, and I love the Bulldogs. But when the Bulldogs are not in it, when the Dogs are not in it, I root for Alabama, and there's nothing wrong with that, Eric.
So here's my one rule.
Basketball.
My one rule, right?
I can't do it,
Terry. With college sports, if you went to that school, you have to root for that school.
Right.
Now, you can have a second team, but you still have to root for your first team, period. So
there you go.
If you went to Tech, you have to root for Tech. So your second team can't be one of its rivals, though.
But I'm saying, so they're trying to prove a point here. And chat, we're getting ready to get to this draft. Get ready to get to this draft. If you're rooting for the Dogs in college football, you don't have to root for the Dogs in college basketball.
Well, I'm a diehard dog fan. I've never watched basketball
anyway.
Yeah,
Chase, you've never watched Georgia League basketball.
I'm a diehard dog fan, but
if Georgia makes the finals right now in the Final Four, you probably won't even know about it.
Are they even in the bracket?
No, I probably won't know about it. I'm just not a basketball
Georgia basketball. What has Georgia basketball been like? Super good outside of Anthony Edwards and so forth.
Is Georgia even in the tournament?
No, they got beat. Alabama's in it. And Alabama went from the SEC.
With March Madness, there's no rules. You root for whoever the hell you want. That's going to make your bracket good.
And I've been on Gonzaga for a while now to hopefully make it past the Sweet 16 into the Elite 8, which they've done before, but they just can't make it past that level. But we're going to get to some Falcons football here because Falcon fans want to talk Falcons football.
Let's do it.
Big shout out to everybody in the chat. Diehard Atlanta Falcon fans, we love talking Falcons football with you all. Here's the deal with the mock, because we understand that fans are going to say, get this guy, get this guy, get this guy. What are you guys doing? Scott has done this before, Falcon fans. So because Scott is the special guest of the night, Scott will be leading the way of our mock. Now,
all right,
we're going to make this super easy. Scott, do you want to do the mock since we didn't acquire Hassan Reddick yet? So we're looking at the mock.
Just look at the current roster. Just look at the current roster.
Okay.
Who would you take today? Because this is how the NFL does it. They look at who is on the current roster today when they do their in-house mocks. Right? So that's what we're going to do right now. We're just going to say, okay, if the draft was today, they'll do like 6 mocks in the morning. They'll do 6 mocks after lunch. They'll do 6 mocks after dinner. They'll do another 6 mocks before they go to bed at night. They'll have 24 mocks done so they can claim 1 per hour of the day and then be like, all right, I did my 24 mocks today, and everybody's going to be doing them. So, man, NIT doesn't matter.
Isn't it NIT when you don't make the March Madness?
The NIT is the consolidation tournament.
Are we talking about the backup tournament here? Hold on.
Gonzaga.
NIT is no different than a bowl game.
It's the you participated trophy.
The NIT is the Carquest Bowl of tournaments, okay?
Yes.
My Zags play Purdue this week. Tune in. And if we beat Purdue, we're winning it all. I'm calling it right now. That's their toughest match of the season is against Purdue. The Zags don't play nobody important too as well. Look at their schedule where they're at in California. They don't play nobody. But Purdue is their biggest game. People say we're going to lose to Kansas. We dubbed Kansas. All right? So let's get that out the way. Going to the
Kansas can be overrated every year.
This ain't the 90s Kansas. This ain't early 2000s Kansas. Right? Falcon fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Let's get straight to it now. Let's get to the draft. Of course, we're going to pick the Falcons because that's our team. Let's enter the draft.
Let's do it.
Scott, we are here. Let's get ready for set the speed. All right, Bears are on the clock. Do you want to do the slow speed, fast speed? Which one do? Which one do, Scott?
I normally just set it to the fastest so I can make my Falcons picks.
Say no more. All right, Falcon fans, the Bears are on the clock. I think what we've looked at the past couple of weeks here, that the Bears probably won't trade this pick. Chase, you've done a lot of mocks. Scott, you've done a lot of mocks. It's possible that the Bears may trade this pick. We've always seen something different.
They're not.
So even with
Bears
a mock draft
Caleb
simulator,
Williams.
We're calling
Bears
it the Bears
Caleb
going to keep
Williams.
this.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams it is. We're going to start the draft. Here we go.
Drake May at 2.
Caleb Williams. Here we go. So now, Falcon fans, I know some of y'all might not be able to see it. We'll read it over. Caleb Williams is 1. Drake May is 2. Jaden Daniels is 3. Marvin Harrison is 4. Romain Aduze is 5. McCarthy, Neighbors go 6 and 7. The Falcons are on the clock.
Let's go.
All right, so your top 3 wide receivers gone.
Yeah. Pass rush
Joe Alt is on the board.
Quarterbacks are gone.
Bowers is on the board. Cooper DeJean is on the board.
Hold on.
Cooper DeJean.
This is not how I stack my board.
Okay.
Right?
Nice.
So when I'm looking at it, my top players left are Dallas Turner, Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, and Brock Bowers. Those are my top 4 players right now, right?
Say the third player, Olu Fashanu, is one of your players on your board.
Olu Fashanu, he's a left tackle for Penn State.
Yeah, he's another solid.
Falcon fans, get these names.
And
with these names, do some homework.
In this situation, look at what trades are being offered. That's what I'm going to do first if I'm the GM. So there's a little tab where next to draft your player, it says trade. So like at the top where it says under Atlanta Falcons, click on trade. So go down, see what trades there.
Let's see here. The New York Jets are trying to trade with us.
So that's one of the teams that they're expecting to do a trade, right?
Yep.
So what I would do, hold on, go down. Oh, you don't have the PFF plus. Never mind. So you're good. You're good. Just go with the pick. So with draft a player at this point, the top player I have on my board in this situation is Dallas Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's who I would go with. I would heavily consider Joe Alt. But in this situation, I'm taking Dallas Turner. No questions asked. I'm taking Dallas Turner.
Scott is looking at the roster right now. He's looking at what the Falcons have. He's going into the draft, and he's going with Dallas Turner.
He's your best long-term fit as a weak outside linebacker. He's going to be the guy who's going to attack off the edge. He's got the same kind of athleticism as a Vic Beasley. Now, say what you will about Vic Beasley, but Vic Beasley didn't have heart. That's not an issue I see with Turner. The issue I see with Turner is that his technique is crap. But you can teach a man technique. You can't teach him heart. You can teach a man technique. You can't teach him athleticism. So the athleticism, the strength, the speed, I go Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner is coming in with the pick. Chase, Dallas Turner?
Dallas Turner at 8, it is.
And you develop him.
Dallas Turner, let's go.
Falcon fans, to get your pass rusher. Bama fans, I hope you're happy.
Coming off of 11 sack season in college.
I hope you're happy, Bama fans. As
now,
we're getting ready to move down.
Top target in a trade down would be Jared Verse.
No doubt.
Over Latu. Because Verse plays the run extremely well.
What is this?
Did it only give you 1 round?
I hope they didn't.
Hold on.
What?
Let me log in on mine.
Yeah.
Jack, I'm gonna have to run, brother.
Oh, you're running out of here. You running out of here real quick, Chase. Hold on 1 second, y'all. One second. Chase, you running out?
Yeah. Yep.
Chase, Falcons fans want to know where they can find you at. You've been a diehard Atlanta Falcon fan for a long time. You're going to continue doing this. DFU is doing such great things over there on your channel. Where can we find more DFU? Where can we find more Chase Cravey?
Yeah, man, you can catch me at Dirty Fanatics United on YouTube. Obviously, you can catch me at TikTok, Facebook groups. It's all Dirty Fanatics United. My handle for YouTube is at DFU_ATL. Hit the subscribe button. We hit 350 by the end of this month. We're giving away a free Falcon ticket. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. We're at 341. I think there's like 7 or 8 days left to do it. So you got 7 days to hit the subscribe button. and had the chance to win a free Falcon ticket, man. So do that. Shout out to Scott for coming on the show, sharing his knowledge here with the Falcon fans. Shout out to you, Jack, for having me on once again. T-Will, my dog, appreciate you tuning in, brother. Always
Yes,
giving me
sir.
your Falcon loyalty. Shout out to y'all, boys. Shout out to the chat. If you're new here, man, hit the subscribe button, man. Much love. Peace out. Rise up.
Rise up.
Falcon fans,
All
hit
right,
that
so-
like, share, subscribe button. Chase Kirby from DFU. We're gonna put the mock simulator back up. Got a better one.
I popped my simulator actually because I got PFF
even better.
So,
there we go.
All right, we're gonna start this.
All right.
Same exact situation popped through, right? Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. This I think is more accurate, but I think at pick 5 with the Chargers, it's not a Dunze. I think they trade down with the Vikings in real life. They trade down with the Vikings. Vikings trade with the Chargers, and they get JJ McCarthy. Then the Giants take a wide receiver, and then the Titans don't go Malik Neighbors. They go Joe Alt.
Mm-hmm.
So going into it, this is where the trade, I think, happens. I don't think it's going to be Minnesota since there's not the quarterback for them. I do think the next trade could be with the Raiders. And there's a reason why I'm picking the Raiders for this. And it comes down to they need quarterback, running back, offensive line. They want Joe Alt to be a corner piece on that offensive line. So they trade. Hold on. They trade 177. They're not interested in trading for this pick. Whatever, man. Whatever.
Raiders said, you're not going to fleece us.
We'll just do the Vikings, right?
Vikings will give up everything. They actually give you part of their stadium too as well to move up.
So this Vikings trade that I suggest, you give up probably. I'll just throw that in there. In real life, 11 and 23 for 8 and 79 would actually be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll offer that trade. They accepted it. We come down, right? We resume. Bowers, Alt, Fashanu, all off the board. That's Olu Fashanu right there, the guy I was talking about. So you trade down and you still get your guy. Trade down, still get Dallas Turner. Now you don't have a third-round pick anymore.
Traded the pick, as you can see on Scott's draft board, on Scott's mock draft here, and we've still acquired Dallas Turner.
Still get Dallas Turner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now at 23, you look at your board, see who's there. And this might be sacrilegious to some who would want us to take Marius Mims to be a long-term right tackle. I'm not taking Marius Mims.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has enough history to be that high. I'm not taking Peyton Wilson that high either. There is a huge need on this roster for a corner.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite corner in this draft is Khalid McKinstry.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm going to do something a little crazy. Based on this current roster,
could Falcon fans be ready for two Bama players in the first round?
Well, here's where I'm going to go a little different, right? We want pass rush. Dallas Turner, Latu. Boom.
So Falcon fans, as you can see here on the mock draft simulator, and this is a mock draft simulator that you have traded back from 8. You was able to get Dallas Turner, and also you was able to acquire Latu in the
Wow. Wait a minute. Who'd you get at 23?
Latu.
You think Latu's going to be there at 23, Scott?
I do, because he's got a big medical issue that is being swept under the rug by a lot of fans. And they're saying, hey, the combine, and the agents aren't saying that to me.
Fans will look at this mock when we're finished, and they will say, how the hell did Latu make it to 23? They're going to think we rigged this, Scott.
They're going to think we rigged this, but I don't rig stuff.
I didn't know about his medical issues, so thank you for that information. And Scott,
you're not doing this on Adobe Photoshop or anything right now. You're not doing this on some type of.
I don't know how to. I mean, I know how to Photoshop, but I don't know how to do Photoshop that well.
This is on Microsoft Excel. This is you're doing a mock right in front of us, right? Latu was at 23.
Latu was there at 23.
Terry, you're hearing about the medical situation that fans may be overlooking. And if the Falcons can somehow, even through a mock, Terry, acquire both of these targets in Atlanta.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Come on, Terry.
That's what I do in a heartbeat, right? So 43 comes around. You've got your 2 pass rushers. Now keep in mind, you don't have 79 anymore. But that's okay. Because you got 23 instead. Now at 43, right? You got needs at corner. You might need a number 2 wide receiver.
Need an interior defensive line. We still haven't tackled that yet. Where's our
Do we,
nose?
though?
Where's our big guy?
This scheme doesn't require a big 320-pound guy.
Okay.
This scheme requires a guy who can crash through the one technique.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Braden Fisk for that. And he's just got that dog in him that makes all the guys around him better.
I'm liking already that we have went 3 defensive pick on Scott's mock right now. And if this is happening on draft night for Falcon fans, because don't forget with these mocks, they present different scenarios that fans can look at and say, maybe this can happen. Maybe this can happen. That's why it's a mock draft simulator. And you've seen it from other content creators. You've seen it from Daniel Jeremiah and all these NFL and ESPN guys. Now we're doing it here on our podcast, where last week, maybe Latu wasn't going to drop to 23.
Yep.
But today, on One Time for the Fan, Scott's draft board right here, which he's not photoshopping anything. We have selected 2 top tier 1 pass rushers and Brandon Fitzgerald as well in the second round. This is great already. Yeah. I see A's already across
now,
Scott.
Third round pick, right?
Yes.
Number 74 overall. What's one spot that I haven't hit yet that I probably should?
What corner? I mean, looking at the team, corner, wide receiver, safety, running back.
Here's the thing: do they need to get a wide receiver high?
No.
If Zach Robinson and crew are known for taking these guys in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round and making them look great. And
what was the kid from LA? He was what, 5th or 6th?
Nakua,
5th rounder.
5th rounder. Okay, so we'll stay away from wide receiver for right now.
So we don't need a wide receiver right this second. There might be a guy we've got to roll for, right?
And because of Kirk Cousins, you can get a guy in that 6th, 5th round and throw him in the mix because of Kirk Cousins.
And you trust the passing.
You trust Kirk Cousins to get this guy involved. So it's not like you have to take a guy high, because Scott mentioned Cordero Hodge. He mentioned Ray McLeod and Rondell Moore and how they can use some of these weapons in the system and Kyle Pitts. So don't look for a wide receiver just yet in the second round or a third. You might hit a gem in the 4th or the 5th. Scott, what you got?
So here we're in the 3rd round, and I think they need a corner to add to this group. I like Clark Phillips. I like D. Alford. I like AJ Terrell. I think they should cut Mike Hughes. Well, Max Melton, very good corner, all around corner, zone, man, fast as hell. I'm taking Max.
How is Max Melton ending up on so many people's draft boards here for Atlanta, Scott? What is it about this kid?
He's a Raheem Morris corner is the best way I know how to put that. He is a Raheem Morris guy. He just kind of fits. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it. So, all right, you got Max Melton, you got that corner, you got your 2 pass rushers, right? So far you've done 2 pass rushers, you've done Fisk, and then you've done Melton.
This is
Not
great.
a
Our
single
defense is
offensive
already
player
coming
yet.
alive. Already.
Adding young guys to a defense that has some veterans. You've got Grady, you've got David Onyemata, you've got Carter, you've got Ellis, you've got Terrell, you've got Jesse Bates. So when you look into defensive picks, that's why they're looking at defense in the draft as opposed to going out and signing these big defenders, because you've got a lot of really good defenders already on the team that are veterans. You got to get some rookies and draft well in the rookie class.
Raheem was on that team back in 2016 where some of the rookies played a major part in our Super Bowl run. Scott?
Exactly. So at this point, I'm throwing some offensive players as priority positions. We've already got a corner.
You've attacked 3 defensive positions early. Fans are happy. How do we get over this now? Yeah.
Now we kind of just look at this board, right? Falcons need depth at this
Scott
point.
is spitting in the chat. Scott is spitting.
So you need depth at this point. I'm looking, all right, well, maybe I get a safety to compete with DeMarco Helms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I go linebacker for depth in case there's injuries again with Anderson and Landman and Ellis, you know, because they were playing Andre Smith at times last year. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, safety could work. Wide receiver could be here with and I don't want to say Anus because I don't know how to say this dude's name, but Anais Smith maybe. Or maybe they go out of left field and they take an offensive lineman for depth and future.
They still haven't dealt with the Matt Hennessy situation, right? Since Matt Hennessy has left, right? They still is a guard spot there.
Javon Gwynn.
Javon Gwynn.
They took him last year.
Yes.
Trained him up for a year as basically a red shirt.
Yes.
And said, Gwynn, all right. They brought back Ryan Newsel. Why
Yes.
did they need to replace Matt Hennessy? They did it last year.
Situation with Justin Schaefer. Fans were asking about that too as well, Scott. Any room
depth.
for him? Yeah.
He's depth, man. He's going to be on the roster as depth.
Yeah.
You got Kyle Hinton still. The Falcons have their entire 3 deep from last year coming back on the offense, except for on the offensive line, except for Matt Hennessy. I mean, honestly, who cares? Matt Hennessy was on the injured reserve all year. So if you're adding somebody, you're adding just for depth at this point. Do I spend a 4th rounder on a depth offensive lineman? Personally, right now, I don't see the need to do that. Do I think a tight end could make sense here? Yes. But you did go out and sign Charlie Warner to that contract. You don't really need it. You don't run tight ends enough in this offense to need that guy. So tight end, pulling off. Interior offensive line, pulling off. Tackle, pulling off. So it leaves wide receiver, linebacker, safety. Do I go Eichenberg? Do I go Cole Bishop? Do I go Anus Smith or Anais Smith? I hope they don't draft him because I don't want to keep calling this man Anus.
Sheesh.
I can't. So personally, I'm still going defense here.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Cole Bishop.
Cole Bishop is a name that Falcon fans had on their mock drafts too as well. Saw a couple of those. And I've been hearing a lot about him too as well through the media. So yes,
he's from Peachtree City. He's from the Atlanta area.
Yep.
He went to Utah. He plays that strong safety, but he plays it in a way that Jimmy Lake would appreciate because he comes down and he blitzes and gets after the quarterback. In addition to playing his role in coverage, he plays the run well. He is a guy that you really want on your roster, and he's a team captain type guy, which we all know Fontenot loves. So
which also they had the success of Clark Phillips from Utah last year too as well. So Clark Phillips gets his former teammate there.
I'm telling you, Clark Phillips is going to surprise some people this year. That dude is way better than people expect.
Is it possible that fans are overlooking this cornerback two where we need to go grab this big tier guy, big name guy versus Clark Phillips could be that guy who could fill the role?
I think so. They brought back Jerry Gray. Jerry Gray loves both D. Alford and Clark Phillips. A big reason why they went out and signed Ray McLeod is because they don't want D. Alford returning punts. They don't want D. Alford returning kicks. They want Avery Williams and Ray McLeod to do it. Those guys have roster spots, and that's what their roster spots are for.
Avery Williams, a name
coming
that
back
fans
from injury.
Totally forgot about. A couple people mentioned on the channel here. Does they have room for him on the roster? Scott's mentioning it here. This is great.
Why wouldn't they have room for him on the roster? They're probably carrying four tailbacks. They're probably not carrying a fullback this year because this team is going to run 13 personnel all day. And if you're going to line Bijan out in the slot sometimes, and you got Algier out there, and maybe Algier needs a break, and maybe Bijan needs a break at the same time, Avery Williams has a spot there. Honestly, I think they might take one in the draft too to compete.
I was looking at maybe drafting a running back too, so because CP's not going to be here too as well. The 3 running backs on the roster right now, outside of a couple camp guys that's going to be walking in, you have Algier, you have Robinson, and you have Williams. Yeah. So maybe a running back in the draft, Scott. Do you see it right now around pick 4?
Well, this is the 5th round pick, right?
5th round pick, yeah.
5th round pick. You've already got corner. You already got safety, right? Let's just take the stuff that we've already taken off. We'll just take the guys the positions we've already taken are going to come off. I'm just going to tag all the stuff that we haven't taken yet, right? So wide receiver, tight end, running back, offensive line could be potentially here. Let's say we haven't taken a linebacker yet. We've taken corner safety. We've taken edge. So we've taken all that, right? But we haven't taken wide receiver, tight end, running back, offensive tackle, inside linebacker, or inside offensive lineman. We haven't taken a quarterback, but this quarterback class is just rough. Like I'm not touching this quarterback class past the top 3 guys personally. And maybe Penix in the top of the second, but Penix wasn't there. So in this situation, who's the best player available? Is it Garendo from Louisville? His film kind of sucks. Is it Sanat? I don't know. His film kind of sucks. A unique name here might be Rosemary Jacksaint from Georgia.
Did the Falcons schedule an interview with him recently, too, as well?
He's going to the local day. He is one of those guys. You watch his film and you're like, I don't know why I like him, but I like him.
Yeah.
Like, he would have been better if his quarterback was better. And that was when I was watching him under Stetson Bennett. And then I watched him with Carson Beck, and I'm like, this guy's better than anybody realizes. He's just like wide receiver number 4 behind McConkey and Bowers and their other tight end, whoever that was.
The year before that was
whether it's Washington or that's what I'm saying. Like whether it's Washington or this new guy, like so it's like, all right, well, this guy might actually be a really solid fit in this offense too, because he's used everywhere. He runs all sorts of different routes. He gets open. He may not get the ball, but he gets open. So he's doing his job. And a guy who does his job is worth that pick.
You can't go wrong with getting a wide receiver. Falcon fans have mentioned we need one more wide receiver because some fans are mentioning one more
wide receiver for the room.
Yeah, Hodge might not be used well. I know how fans were looking at this. Hodge may not be used a certain way, or Ray may not be used a certain way. Let's go draft a guy or two. And now you're seeing on the board here that Scott has selected St. Jackson with the pick. And that is a good pick, not only for dog fans, because you get your guy here in a Falcons uniform, but what he has done at Georgia and what he can do in the NFL could definitely impact this roster, because you're looking at a guy like Kirk Cousins who's getting him the ball. In the past situation, the past couple of years, it would be a little bit difficult to say if we can get a rookie wide receiver the ball, if we can get him the numbers that we want to get him. But with Kirk Cousins, a guy who throws over 4,000 yards per season, Jackson might come away with 4 or 5 touchdowns this year.
Jackson might be a 30-catch, 400-yard, 6-touchdown guy his rookie season, and people go, wait, that's their 5th-round pick?
Yeah.
Why is he putting up wide receivers 3 stats?
Yeah. Scott, before you even get ready to make the next pick, how are you looking at with the grades? Would you say right now that
I don't even look at the grades, but
from the picks, we should be around a B or an A? I mean, you've hit on 3 solid defensive players.
Should be.
We're there, Terry. We should be there.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be an A. But all right, so
like you could have got Penix in the 2nd round. What are you doing?
Could I have? Let's see where Penix went. All right, so 2nd round pick. Bo Nix in the 2nd round, but Bo Nix is trash. Okay, yeah, I could have gotten Penix.
Penix went 44 to the Raiders. So you talked about that too as well, how they're trying to set up in the trade that would have been made earlier.
Penix is 23 years old.
Yeah.
And Fisk is 23 years old. But a 23-year-old defensive lineman who isn't blocked by 3 years of 3 years of contracts. He's blocked, and a guy who's going to play 100% of the snaps because your quarterback plays 100% of the snaps. Fisk, he's instantly a rotational guy at minimum. He's playing 40% of the snaps. He's rotating at 1 tech. He's rotating at 3 tech. Take Fisk. He played a 1 tech role for the Knolls. And he's like 305. He's more than heavy enough. So, yeah, you could have gotten Penix in the 2nd. That would have been fine. But I'm not doing that in this situation. If I've already got my 2 outside guys and Fisk is sitting right there at 43, he's a better player than Penix. And I'm taking the better player. If I'm a best player available drafter like Terry Fontenot is, I'm taking my best player available.
Plus,
That's
I think
Go ahead,
if you draft, Penix, you low key create a controversy because
Maybe.
he is too similar to Vic to not inspire the Vic loyalists to kind of,
But
you
the
know,
thing is, his play is nothing like Michael Vick.
it isn't.
He's a
but
black left-handed quarterback who's
Mhm.
about 6'2", and that's about where the comparisons to Michael Vick stop.
Mhm.
But
Right.
if you watch Michael Penix play, and they're both named Michael, but if you watch Michael Penix play, he's closer to Matt Stafford but lefty than anything Vic did. His mobility is not that great either.
Right.
He's not going to be the guy that's going to go out there and run for 1,000 yards. He's probably not the guy that's going to go out there and run for 100 yards. If we're
He
being
seems
honest
to wants to
here.
stay in the pocket and get slaying the ball all day.
He does, but
And that's
the folks
because that's what Kirk Cousins does too. So like
Yeah.
stylistically, it's no different.
But the folks that would be calling for him aren't going to take that granular approach. They're just going to take one.
Calling for him don't know what they're talking about.
There you go. I'm with you, right? But I'm saying
in the macro version,
right. And since we want this year to go well, I think it would be in the best interest. Besides everything you said, I think it would be the best interest is if you're going to draft a quarterback, it needs to be somebody of a certain ilk, and it may not even need to be this year. Or if you do, they need to be in a 5th round, and there needs to be no ambiguity and no threat at all to Kirk Cousins. You get what I'm saying?
Well, that's why I think they just stick with Heineke, honestly.
There you go.
In the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 6th round, right? This is where you just take roster filler, competition guys, depth guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see Cody Schrader right here. Stylistically, with this offense, Cody Schrader fits, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the best player available on my own personal board at this point. But there's also another guy here who
is Braylon Allen still on the board from Wisconsin?
I don't think he fits stylistically. I don't think he's his own guy.
Okay.
I think he's more of that like Derrick Henry, pound him right
ground
in the
and
middle
pound, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Covers his body frame. Was he 6'3", 240 or something?
Yeah, he's a big old boy. But like I don't think he really fits what we do here.
Mm-hmm.
There's also this guy, Steel Chambers, which all name team, but depth linebacker, Ohio State. Maybe that could be the pick. And then you also have the potential to double up at interior defensive line, Jordan Jefferson, Jawan Briggs. Maybe those guys are going to be it. Maybe you look at a tight end like Bell or Raymond. But personally here, I'm just going best player available.
Best player available, filling roster spots.
Who's my best guy on the board right this second? On my personal board is Cody Schrader.
Cody Schrader. So Falcon fans, you have now got your running back in later rounds, which in this offense,
running back 4, mainly running back 3, who can catch the ball.
This is around the same place where we drafted Tyler Algier, right?
It's a little bit later.
Okay.
A little bit later. But running back, you don't got to take high to have a good depth position. You should always take a running back in every single draft because a running back's first contract is 4 years normally. And if you take one every draft, it doesn't have to be a day 1, day 2 pick either. It can be like a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, a 7th rounder, just to have depth in that room. Because your running backs are also going to be your gunners on special teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're also going to be running down the field on kickoffs. They're also going to be like, you want a guy who's going to have that special teams value too. And Schrader has that special teams value too.
Yeah. It's so important to know those big defensive players early. Yeah, Scott.
So Scott, what are Schrader's strengths?
Vision, more than anything else. Dude can find the hole. They like, you know how some guys are 4.4, 4.3 guys, and they're just fast as hell, right? Schrader is like a 4.6 guy in shorts. Well, you know when guys throw the pads on, they get slower. Schrader does not. He is still a 4.6 guy with all the pads on.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's still that guy.
Big fans are missing that too as well. They saw people run to 40 with no pads on. Like, oh my God, this guy is super quick. sometimes when you put the pads on, you're not running that same 40
But
speed.
it's not just that they run that fast, it's how they run. You have to watch how they're running and see if it compares to their film.
Yes.
There's a lot of guys that don't run the same on their 40 that they do on film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they might be a 4.3 guy on 40, but then you watch their film and they're like maybe a 4.7 guy. You're like,
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at.
Okay.
Now we're at the final pick. I'm looking here. I see a guy who I was considering at 187 still sitting on this board.
Mm-hmm.
Steel Chambers.
And you haven't hit the linebacker position.
You'll need that linebacker.
Running a 3-4, we're going to need a guy out there who can not an Andre Smith
in the middle.
Yeah.
Need that guy in the middle. Steel Chambers had a very solid combine. He may only be 226 pounds, but he had a solid enough combine. You can build him up. You can turn him into a really good, strong inside linebacker. This year, he's going to play a lot of special teams. He's going to be running down the field, knocking heads. That's exactly what you want him to be.
So what you're saying is we're getting a steal in the 6th round.
I think we're getting a guy who's going to compete for playing time, very similar to a Nate Landman, except he's like the coverage version of Nate Landman. His instincts and coverage are great. He's not the best run defender. He needs a little more strength. He needs to gain about 15 pounds, hit the weight room, be in that pro strength program. Like, that's what he would be.
God, it's so great to talk to Scott. You're hearing real things coming from a fan. Terry, do you hear this right here? Do you see why Scott was? Do you see why we brought him back on the channel?
I'm loving it.
You know what? And the cap numbers. He talks football.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Football.
Well, yeah, but he's giving context to questions that I have and things I thought about but maybe didn't know. So Scott, I'm so appreciative. Scott, I do have another question for you, and that is, the analytics have, I don't want to say taken over baseball, but their presence is there and it's not going anywhere. Do you see the same thing happening for football? And if so, in what areas may we see the impact of analytics?
There's too much of a human element. So analytics have been in football for the last decade plus. Like, they're in football now, but analytics don't tell you the heart of a player. Analytics don't tell you how this guy's gonna do when he gets hit by his first NFL linebacker.
Okay.
Analytics don't tell you how this guy's gonna handle blocking.
Okay.
Analytics don't tell you whether this guy wants to go out for a screen pass against an all-pro linebacker like Bobby Wagner.
Okay.
Analytics don't tell you if this guy wants to come in and the first time he gets pancaked by an offensive tackle, if he's going to come back just as hard the next play.
Okay.
So analytics are important, but analytics are never everything. The best teams will mix analytics, will mix film study, will mix their holistic approach of just talking to a human being.
Yeah.
Okay.
And getting to know the player. Personality is so much when it comes to the NFL and comes to playing in the NFL. A good defense, right? A good defense isn't just based off of whether or not this guy fits my scheme. It's not based off of whether or not I have the right guys in terms of their talent on field. It's whether I have the right guys in terms of their overall fit for my team and their talent, and whether they all want to go hunt heads. And if we got a situation like this and we've got Turner and Latu and Fisk and Melton and Bishop all coming into this defense, that's going to really help raise the floor of the defense. But it's also going to raise that ceiling even higher. Because you're going to have, you might have Carter and Jarrett and Malone, and maybe Malone's the odd man out in that situation. Hell, maybe they just cut Carter in that situation. Or maybe they say, you know what, Turner, Latu, you guys long-term are the guys, but this year it's Carter and it's Ebiketie. And those are my guys this year. And you guys are going to play 40%. And you guys are both first-round picks, but you guys are going to develop. Braden Fisk, you might be a high second-round pick. You might be a future starter in this league. But right now we got Anyamata and Jarrett. So you're going to be rotating with those guys. And that's your job. Your job is to make their job easier. You know,
Okay.
maybe you end up with 3 guys playing 60% of the snaps because you got a 3-man rotation at 2 spots. And that's great. And you let them build off of each other. And that's exactly what you want. And maybe Harrison comes in and plays another 40%. But again, snap counts, all that, that's in-season thinking. At this point, as a GM, my job is to get the best 90 men on the roster for training camp. And whatever happens from there is my head coach's job.
Okay. One more question for you, and I know you're tired.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. I'm dealing with sinuses and stuff.
He could talk football all day, Terry. All day.
I love it. One more question for you.
Shoot.
It would appear, and I again, this is a positive show, so I'm going to be careful how I word this. But there were clearly some issues with, I would say, route design and play calling with the previous regime.
Absolutely.
Do you think that is a superlative, or do you think that this will be resoundingly better with the current regime that we have now?
I think it's going to end up being a lot better.
Yep.
And I think a big reason why it's going to be better is you've got a guy that comes from the McVay portion of that scheme, of that tree.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, Bill Walsh is basically the inventor of the modern offense.
Yes.
Everybody comes from his tree. Andy Reid comes from his tree. That whole Shanahan tree, it's Bill Walsh. What Ben Johnson's doing up in Detroit, it's Bill Walsh. Like, even what Sean Payton's doing, it's still Bill Walsh. Like, he invented the modern NFL offense.
Yeah.
Every single offensive play caller, schemer, designer comes from that tree. So they're like, oh, this guy's from the Shanahan tree, or this guy's from this. Just study Bill Walsh and you'll understand the entire NFL schemes. But when you're looking at it from that perspective, like, you do have some guys who throw some Earhart Perkins and some of these other schemes in there. When you have a Bill Walsh offense, the wide receivers should all have good routes that create spacing. So when you've got a guy running a post, a guy shouldn't be running a streak into that post.
Yes.
Correct.
There needs to be a delay of some sort. And a lot of that is play design. Now, a lot of that, and I hate to throw TJ under the bus here, a lot of that was the wide receivers coach didn't know what he was really doing coaching wide receivers because he was a quarterback.
Okay.
And when you don't have a quarterbacks coach, your quarterbacks coach is normally helping with play design. So when you lose Charles London, you're losing a play designer.
Which they
additional play designer
set to lose Charles London.
An additional check to the balance, an additional check and balance there, right? So if you've got this guy that's been coaching with Arthur Smith for a decade and a half in Tennessee, and then all of a sudden he's like, all right, peace out, bro, and heads back to Tennessee, what the hell do you think's going to happen? Big regression. Because he's probably the guy that was like, hey, man, we got no spacing here. Because there was spacing in 2022. That wasn't a problem in 2022.
That makes sense.
The quarterback wasn't accurate. Now, in 2023, all these problems with spacing and route design pop up because you didn't have the guy that was there that was designing the routes and creating the spacing.
That makes sense. That makes so much sense. Okay. And I bring that up to say there were at least 10 examples last year where you had guys in the same spot. I mean,
3 guys in a 5-yard box.
Yes. Okay.
3 guys in a 5-yard box.
That's the Arthur Smith offense. 3 guys in a 5-yard box.
Tough.
That makes sense. Okay.
So when one of your play designers leaves and you don't replace him, and you don't say, oh, hey, my quarterback's guy who's coaching wide receivers and not coaching quarterbacks like he should have, you move him back to quarterbacks, which is why Morris I love how Michael goes, that's why Morris moved Yates to quarterback coach. That's literally what I was about to say. That's
Everybody's in here is on the
he
same
goes,
page, Scott. We are
goes,
all on the same page.
He goes, Yates, you're a quarterback. You played quarterback. You coached quarterbacks.
Okay.
There was really no reason for you to coach wide receivers. Go back to coaching quarterbacks. I'm going to go hire Ike Hilliard, who went to multiple Pro Bowls,
Mm-hmm.
and go from there.
Your wide receivers coach.
Your wide receivers coach, right? Get a guy who knows how to play wide receiver in the NFL and go to a Pro Bowl in the NFL to coach your wide receivers. Oh, what a concept.
Falcon fans.
I mean, and
you see how Scott's trying to explain it to Falcon fans? Like, Scott, how many times have you mentioned this in the past couple of weeks? I know every year things change about the team, but how many times have you mentioned Kirk Cousins and how he can fit with this team? How many times have you mentioned drafting a certain player, Dallas Turner? How many, over a couple hundred times now?
Probably, but it's because I have certain. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
This offseason, I said it's either Kirk or it's Baker or it's one of the top 3 quarterbacks. Anybody else is an F. Because if you don't go out and get Kirk or you don't get Baker, and Baker's a solid quarterback that you can use and was successful in this offense. In context, Baker makes a lot of sense. One of those top 3 quarterbacks makes a ton of sense. Penix was your last resort. The last acceptable answer at 43. If you didn't get Kirk, then you get Penix. And I know I put a mock draft out there on Blogging Dirty where we take Penix, but it was just the thought process. I do mocks as thought processes.
Yes.
Okay.
You know,
what was your thought process when you drafted Penix? Was this before Kirk or after?
This was after Kirk. I did the mock like 3 days ago, and I was just like, what would it look like if they went wide receiver at 8 and quarterback at 43? Could they still fill out the defense? Was basically the question I was trying to answer.
Okay.
That's how you have to look at these mock drafts. It's if I do 1 and 2, can I still have some quality players come in through the rest of it? And my thought process at the end of it was, I don't know how much I like this roster if they do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like wide receiver at 8, you can get around because there's still some great talent in the second, great talent in the third, at edge and corner and safety and wide receiver and all that. Like,
but the second round quarterback move is like
the second round quarterback move combined with that first round wide receiver move would make me go, I don't know what the hell they're doing.
You're setting up for 2 years from now versus setting up for right now.
And this thought of Spencer Rattler, and everybody's like, oh, they're in on Rattler, they're in on Rattler, they're in on Rattler. I think they're in on Leggett. I think they really like Leggett at the top of the second round. I think they see a guy who could be like a Julio type that people around the league might be like, well, you know, he's going to be good, but he's kind of like a Debo-ish guy. I'm like, no, he's more like a Julio, like blow the top off of defense, like go over the middle, get that tough yardage, can do it all at wide receiver, has yak, like literally can do it all as a wide receiver. He's just not 6'3" where Julio was. He's 6'1".
Okay.
He doesn't have this, 35-inch arms. He's got 33-inch arms. He doesn't have 10-inch mitts. He's got 9.5-inch mitts. It's like little stuff like that. But like you throw him in this offense with a Drake London as the number 1, with a Kyle Pitts in there, and then Leggett's out there, and you got Mooney and Leggett, and those are your speed guys. That defense doesn't know who to cover.
Yeah.
And then you just run the ball down their throat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now we go 8 in the box. All right, 8 in the box against 11 personnel.
Yeah. Is AJ Brown
matchup too?
Is AJ Brown 6'1" or what are how tall is AJ
Brown 6'3"?
Oh, okay. So he's more like
AJ Brown is another in that Julio Jones, AJ Brown, like Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, if you want to get into it. Like Charizard's Julio, right? Charmander's probably Leggett. AJ Brown's Charmeleon. Like, to use a Pokemon reference. Like, they're all the same kind of guy.
They're still decent Pokemons, though. They're not like no weaklings.
No, that's my favorite Pokemon. But just throwing that out there, like, it's kind of like that. you know. And yes, I will make a Pokemon evolution reference 2 hours into a NFL football show because Pokemon's older than half the fan base at this point. Like,
Yeah.
Can you do a Pokemon draft?
shoot, no. No. Also, I saw this TikTok where this dude was like, I'm gonna do celebrity Pokemon evolutions, and was like, Emma Mackey is Eevee, and then Samira Weaver is like Jolteon, and Margot Robbie is Flareon, and Jamie Presley is like Vaporeon. I'm like, all right, dude, you got too much time on your hands. Like,
Oh man.
so like,
fans,
but yeah,
this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Talking Falcons football with Scott Karisick, from going over the mock draft, from going over Kirk Cousins, the cap space, Hassan Reddick, breaking down Jimmy Lake and the defense, breaking down what Zach Robinson can. You got more than a podcast tonight, Falcons fans. It's like, I swear, it's like you're talking to somebody that's a part of the organization here. Like Scott,
It feels like it. It really feels like
I
it.
am not a part of the organization.
Falcons. He's not part of the organization. He's with Block and Dirty too as well, but he studies the Falcons.
Very
It's not
astute.
just putting on the
Very
jersey,
astute.
just showing up as a fan. He studies the ins and outs, techniques, route running, coaching, anything from even the organization stuff that goes on behind the scenes, cap space. It doesn't matter what it is when it comes to Scott. He has the time to sit back and also bring the facts too as well
Absolutely.
to back up the claims, because it's big as a Falcon fan when you're looking at a certain player and say he can fit here, but not knowing why he fits here. It's kind of like, well, I'm stumped there. They got me. This guy's good. He's a big name player. They're talking about him on ESPN. He should be here in Atlanta. Well, what does he bring to Atlanta?
Yeah. Like doing
ESPN
math and not showing your work.
Right.
So
when you
when
have
a
a
lot
guy
of
like
people,
Scott here, yeah.
When a lot of people were like Justin Fields, why didn't they bring in Justin Fields?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Justin Fields doesn't really fit with this offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's not a one.
Throw it over the middle.
Pop.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a one and go.
Boom, boom.
One
He's
and go.
like one
and then go.
All right. What's my two?
And then take
what's
off.
my three? Screw it. I'm going. Like,
yeah, I'm going. Yeah.
And
that's what I got from Zach Robinson saying the elite
Fields.
processor. I didn't get elite processor with Fields.
He's not an elite processor.
Yeah.
Honestly, Taylor Heineke's not an elite processor either, but
they feel comfortable with a pocket passing quarterback behind Kurt, right?
They feel at this point, they're like, well, in this new scheme, Heineke can at least run it because he ran it in Washington.
Is Scott, to you, is this the Matt Schwab, Matt Ryan move, the Mitchell Trubisky, Josh Allen move, where the backup shouldn't be yelled by the fan base? Kurt is the guy. He's playing. He throws a pick and gets that.
This is
versus
absolutely,
last year. It was like bringing the backup, bringing the backup, bringing the backup.
This is absolutely the Mitch Trubisky, Josh Allen move. Like Heineke is not anywhere close to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
like Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Heineke is like a top 16 backup. Like he's got a roster spot. Honestly, I would have kept Ritter over him.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to clamor for Ritter over Cousins. You're going to let Ritter develop. And if Ritter needs to come in for a quarter at the end of the season or play this game 17 because they got the division locked up and they're 12-4. All right, cool. Let him play that last game. Whatever. Because at that point, he'd been sitting behind Cousins all year. But I get why they traded him.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, Heineke gives you that extra element of he's an experienced backup. They could go with a guy in the draft at some point. I don't think Rattler's any good. I don't think he has a ton of potential. He's probably my quarterback, 9? And then after Rattler, you've got Joe Milton, who's a cannon with no aim. Mm-hmm. Sam Hartman, who's a lame duck. Devin Leary, who's meh. And then a bunch of undraftable people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love the Tagovailoa little brother as like a wide receiver prospect because he can't throw. And then you got guys who went to like Incarnate Word and South Alabama and Texas El Paso who weren't good enough to play Power 5 football.
Could be the next Brock Purdy, but we're not going to just throw it out there right now.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Okay, how many quarterbacks were taken in the 6th and 7th round in the last 45 years? And how many quarterbacks in the last 45 years have been to a Pro Bowl that were drafted in the 6th and 7th round?
I'm going to go 1 or potentially 2.
You have
Less
like
than 5.
3 quarterbacks that were drafted in the 6th or 7th round. It's like Mark Bolger, Tom Brady, and Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's been like probably 150 or so that have been drafted in the 6th and 7th round in the last 45 years. So yeah, you can get that guy, but that's like putting all of your money on making sure it hits the 0 on the roulette wheel. Are you doing that?
No, I'm not doing that.
No.
I'm not doing that.
Fans in the chat wouldn't do that either, too, as well.
No. Signing Cousins is putting all your money on red and saying, you know what? If it's 50-50, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 45% is going to hit red. Screw it. Why not? Throw that $100 on red.
The past couple years here at what we've had with the system and quarterback play, if it's Kirk Cousins, how the Falcons believe it is, then I'm putting all on red too as well. I'm 50-50 on two as well.
They threw $100 million on red. That's what they just did. They're like, you know what? That's throwing it on red.
Scott's breaking it down for you all in Pokemon terms and casino terms and gambling ways. There's so many ways that Scott can break it down for Falcon fans. Terry, let me tell you something.
You gotta live life and like not everybody understands football through football. Sometimes you gotta break it down and look at it from other things.
Yes.
He's a Swiss Army knife of explanations.
This is true.
Scott, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So our previous regimes, and you can maybe go back decades, but we've never really drafted defensive linemen well. And my question is that an organizational deficiency, or is it more that there are just not that many great defensive linemen to be drafted? What are your thoughts on that?
Bill Parcells used to have something called the planet theory. There's only so many people on this planet over 300 pounds, so I'm going to draft as many of them as I possibly can for my team. That was Bill Parcells. That was Bill Parcells' theory, and it led him to a Super Bowl championship in 1986. Well, there's only so many great pass rushers on this planet, so get as many of them as you can on your team. And that's kind of what that mock draft we just did was. That was my planet theory mock draft. Like, honestly, I think it's just been – I think part of it is a failure in scouting because anybody would tell you TJ Watt coming out in 2017 was going to be better than Takk McKinley.
Yeah.
Anybody. Yeah. Analytics said it. Film said it.
Yeah. Personality
said it. Bloodline said it. And
you got down to that pick too was Takk, Taco Charlton, and Charles Harris was like the
it was like Takk, Taco, Charlton, right?
Yeah.
And TJ Watt. I'm sorry, right. I'm going TJ Watt there. Oh, he would have been redundant with Beasley. Who gives a shit if he would have been redundant with Beasley?
Right.
Honestly. Okay, so you change your damn scheme. A good coach looks at that and goes, you know what? If I have TJ Watt and he can play my strong side linebacker in my base and he can pass rush, I don't have to use Vic that way. I can use Vic as a Leo, the way Vic should have been used from the get-go.
Yep.
All right. Well, Vic didn't love football. That's why he didn't pan out.
Right.
You can see it in his game film.
Oh, make sure we say Beasley here on the channel because some fans is like, once you say Vic, they're like, hold on now. Don't talk about my number 7 now. We're talking about Beasley. Remember the other night, Terry?
I'm guilty of that.
I mean,
I'm guilty of it.
When Michael Vick was here in Atlanta, he didn't love football either. He didn't love football till he went to prison. And he's admitted that in his own article.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't love football till he went to prison. So I feel like that applies to anybody named Vic that's been on this roster in the last 20 years. Sorry, but that's just the truth. When the man admitted he didn't love football, but Vic Beasley was the reason for that. The Falcons didn't really draft a lot of pass rushers either. So, like, we're talking about now. You say defensive linemen; they've been great at drafting defensive tackles,
right?
You know,
but just not pass rushers.
But like, well, I mean, edge rushers not as much, but even defensive tackles. If you go back, like, because I'm just kind of going through anybody that's drafted day 3, you know, 4th round or later. You can't really rely on that, right?
Gotcha.
I think Ebiketie and Malone have been solid picks, but you need to give them snaps. You need to let them show
especially Malone. Yep.
Get them going, right? Ogundeji was drafted in the 5th round. It's okay that he hasn't been great. Graham was drafted in the 5th round. It's okay he hasn't been great. But if you go back to like the mid 90s when they had Hall and Drenette and they had, you know, in the 2005 draft, they took Babineau. Like
Claiborne too is what they had on the team for.
You know, Grady. They took Grady in 15. They've got some guys that they've been able to get that were solid. Now Pere Jerry failed, but Pere Jerry failed because he had a knee injury, right? Very next draft they took Corey Peters. Corey Peters was a very good defensive tackle. Very underrated defensive.
Even after he left us, he went on to be a good defensive tackle too. As
Absolutely.
So to the Eagles? Where'd he go? I want to say he went to
the Air Cardinals.
Cardinals.
That's right. You're right.
It was still another bird, but yeah.
I think they're looking to say probably other teams have had success with drafting defensive players, and the Falcons are kind of like, he's hit or miss every now and then.
But here's the thing: the Falcons we don't even draft them. We don't even draft them. That's the real issue. We just don't draft them. Like I'm going back years. Patrick Kearney in 1999 was the last 1st-round end before Vic Beasley. The last 1st-round edge rusher before Vic Beasley. And then they had, you know, in 15 they took Beasley. And
they had a Jamal Anderson guy too as well. Remember Jamal Anderson?
Oh, yeah, Jamal Anderson, right? I forgot about him. But Jamal Anderson, you know what his failure was? Just raw. He shouldn't have gone that high.
Yeah.
And honestly, he was a defensive tackle that they were using at end. If they would have used Jamal Anderson as a 3-tech, he would have been so much better. And when he went to his next team, they used him as a 3-tech, and he put up, 6-7 sacks?
I think that's why fans are really excited, too, as well in the chat from your mock draft, because you just went 3 from ESPN and from the NCAA and from what they're saying. You just went 3 star college players with your first 3 picks on one team.
Yep.
Like, that is major when he talks about, to Terry's point, of drafting players. Terry, if we can come away with anything that Scott just put out there for those 3 picks, if you get Turner, Latu, and Brandon as your first 3 picks from Florida State, Terry, you're talking about this, man, this whole defense, that question alone in one draft could change the future of the Falcons. But Terry, you're right. In the past couple of years, they did miss on a lot of picks, and I think that does go to scouting. It does go to sometimes the circumstances that these coaches were put under too as well, with who they're going to draft. Because Pere Jerry was a pick. I remember when they brought a couple players where you look at, we missed on the Geno Atkins, and we missed on TJ Watt, and we missed on
Sean Weatherspoon.
Big name players. Yep.
You know why Sean Weatherspoon didn't pan out? Injury.
Yeah.
But he was when he would come in and he would blitz.
He was a star.
When he would come in and play, he was a star. When he dropped back into coverage, he was a star. He was what Collins from New England. He would have been just as good as him, Jamie Collins. He would have been just as good as Jamie Collins, same kind of player, if they had just had he not just gotten injured. So, same kind of career.
I'm just going to do this last question right here for the night. I'm a rebound from Terry. Terry, you shot the ball. Oh, got the rebound. I'm going to pass it back to Terry in a minute. But check this out, Scott. From Terry Fontenot's draft and his scout team and everybody, you're looking at what you just drafted and what he's brought in the past couple of years. A lot of these players have hit the field. for Terry. So we do know that what you just drafted on this mock, these players will hit the field for Terry.
Absolutely.
Would you say now that with Terry in control of a lot of this draft, that we're going to be bringing in the right pass rushers to help out Terry's T. Will's question that he just asked you about drafting the right guys?
Absolutely.
I think Terry Fontenot's done a great job of drafting people.
Yes, he has.
And we're getting ready to bring in some more class that's gonna help us out on a major level.
This class is going to be 100% about not just bringing in the right guys, but bringing in the right guys that fit this new Falcons situation, that fits what this Falcons team needs to be. It's not just about, hey, can this guy fit my scheme? It's, hey, where does this guy win? How can I use him? Do I have a plan for him? He doesn't have to fit my scheme. Do I have a plan for him?
Yeah.
Because if I've got a plan for him and how to use him, I can fit that into my scheme.
Yeah. That
my
makes
scheme
sense.
Should be about, where does Grady Jarrett win? Grady Jarrett wins in a 3-tech and a 1-tech. All right, so he's going to be splitting that time. I'm going to set 30% of my 3-tech snaps for Jarrett. I'm going to set 40% of my 1-tech snaps for Jarrett. He's getting 70% of the snaps. Grady Jarrett, boom, that's your role. Where does David Onyemata win? He wins in a 3-tech. He wins in a 1-tech. But he wins a lot more in a 3-tech. So half my 3-tech snaps are going on Onyemata. All right, I'll give him 10% of my 1-tech snaps. So if I've got Grady at 50%, Onyemata at 60%, I still need someone to play that other – Onyemata at 10%. I still need someone to play that other 40% of those 1-tech snaps. All right, who can do that on my roster right now? Can Graham do it? I don't know. Can London do it? Maybe. Can Street do it? Probably not. All right, so I need somebody for that role. That's where Fisk fits in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And where does Fisk win? Fisk wins as a 1-tech.
Fisk
wins as a 3-tech, but he wins a lot more as a 1-tech than he does as a 3-tech. All right, so that's why you take Fisk and you fit him in to what that hole in your scheme is and what that hole in your role is. And all right, boom. And then you play him 10% at 3-tech. And then in 2 to 3 years, maybe he replaces Grady. Or maybe in 2 years, when Onyemata's contract runs out, he's just replacing Onyemata. Mm-hmm. Either way, you're fine. And that's going to be the guy that you can build around. He's your new Grady moving forward in terms of he's your new imploder of the pocket from the inside out.
We're going to post the mock on social media for those. Scott, do you have the mock one more time? I know somebody gets asked about it. If not, we can post it later. Also, Scott, we did the draft.
Don't.
Okay, we'll post it later on social media. Scott, we did the draft without the Hassan Reddick trade. If the trade was involved, looking at your first 3 picks when we did Dallas Turner, Latu, and Fisk, if Reddick's trade is involved, who would you add or take away, or could you still get those 3 guys with a Hassan Reddick?
So you wouldn't do all 3 guys with Reddick.
You wouldn't do all 3 guys, yes.
So
I'm guessing the 23 for Latu, that might be the guy where Latu's not there. Dallas Turner might be the guy, but not Latu.
So let's say you do 7 rounds, right? Let's just do. Where's the Eagles?
So from the draft, we're gonna go ahead and post the mock draft later on social media, Ray Fitty. But we was able to get Dallas Turner, trade back. We traded back, was able to get Dallas Turner, Latu at 23, and then Fisk in the second round. And then was able to get Max Melton too as well, corner, Jackson Saint from Georgia too as well. Schrader, the running back, Cody Schrader from Missouri. I forget who else we got with the other picks, but we ended up with a B+. But fans in the chat were like, holy shit, we just got Latu, Turner, and Fisk.
Exactly.
That was crazy.
So let's say
also we traded from 8 to 11, and we got pick 11 and 23 in the
trade
first
helped
round.
us out. Minnesota gave us half of US Bank Stadium, and they also gave us what they wanted for the trade. Yeah,
exactly. So let's say in that situation, right? And I can just kind of hit a present here, share screen.
Yep. Ray 50, see what you did now? Ray 50's like, what happened with the draft? Now we're going to go ahead and do it.
All right. So far we've traded our number 79 overall pick.
This is with Hassan Reddick now.
So we've traded 79 to the Eagles for Reddick, right?
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
say like a future conditional pick, depending on how good Reddick is.
Mm-hmm.
And based on my board, this is my personal board, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at edge, we're looking at corner, we're looking at safety. We're looking at wide receiver in these top picks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Malik Neighbors falls to 4 here. Realistically, he's probably not falling to 4. The Cardinals are probably taking, a wide receiver there. They're probably taking Harrison there. Pick 5 is probably the Vikings trading up for May. Odunze's probably, or Neighbors is probably gone here at 6. And then whatever. In this situation, since I've already brought in Reddick, I'm just going to take Neighbors. I'm going to just say, screw it. I'm killing it with my...
What's your wide receiver core with Neighbors? Is he your 2 now?
Yes.
Yes, there it is.
There's no questions asked. He's 2. So, all right, wide receiver's good. Wide receiver's covered.
Kirk
And
got
then-
his Jefferson 2.0.
From that point, I'm looking at defense again.
Mm-hmm.
And remember what I said about Fisk last time. He plays 40% of those 1-tech snaps. He plays 20% of those 3-tech snaps.
Mm-hmm.
He's that guy in the rotation.
It's
I
good to
think
see that
Fisk
in
at
2 drafts,
43.
Fisk is still there. It's good to see.
He just fits.
Yeah.
All right. So back to corner, back to safety, back to edge, back to interior we don't need interior defensive line at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Linebacker, you already took a wide receiver.
Running
Offense, you can kind of say you're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not touching running back in the 3rd round.
Okay.
I've already taken my receiver. I've already got that. Melton's right there. Are there edge rushers that would be worth it here? I don't see that guy, so I'm just gonna say, you know what? Let's just go back with Melton again.
The Melton has been on so many Falcons fans draft board.
Melton just fits, man.
Man,
He
come
just
on, Falcons.
he just fits.
Come on, Falcons. You can get this done right.
All right, so we still haven't taken another edge yet, right? Well, we got Reddick, but we also have Carter. We've got Malone. We've got Ebiketie. You don't really need to go grab an edge in the draft if you've got Reddick on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, 4th round, I'm going back with Cole Bishop again.
Mm-hmm.
So not much is changing with that trade except for that first pick. All right, linebacker. We've already got safety. We got corner. We got interior. Let's look at edge. I'm not really inspired by this group.
Nobody
Thomas,
there.
Caesar, Murphy. All right, so let's just kind of look at the big board, see if there's anybody that kind of stands out that I might be a little higher on that other people may not be. See if there's a guy who kind of stands out athletically that might be the guy. All right, I don't really see it in those positions.
I hope
right?
Falcon fans are enjoying this because this is getting us ready for draft night. Because we will be doing a live broadcast on draft night. Takes about 2.5 to 3 hours. So Falcon fans that's in the chat here, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We will be doing a live broadcast for draft night. So just be prepared for that. That's why, as you can see, this is kind of like the appetizer for draft night. Scott?
So you're there draft night and you're like, all right, well, where's something I can grab? I've got 4 edges on my roster that I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got Fisk now. I've got, so we go back and we look at it and we're like, all right, well, we got Fisk, we got Bishop, we got all these guys. We took a corner, the roster's looking good.
Max Melton. Mm-hmm.
I can just kind of go best player available, really.
Mm-hmm.
But let's kind of take a spot we haven't taken yet. And let's look at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Theo Johnson. Very interesting tight end. Played all over. Very similar in a lot of ways to what Pitts can do. So I'm taking Theo Johnson. Now, that's not saying that I'm against Pitts, but it's all right. Maybe I can have a poor man's Pitts as my backup.
That's how you're building a roster right now. You're going through the draft for what you need.
Build the roster.
Yes.
Maybe you don't need it, but maybe it just makes sense.
Yes.
All right. Well, Cody Schrader again. I explained it last
board,
time.
You can't deny that.
Same kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Steel Chambers again. Taking Steel Chambers. Boom. There's my There's my depth linebacker.
Same pick from last time too, as well.
So some of these picks are the same, just because I want the situation to look comparable, right? If you're trading for Hassan Reddick, you don't really need the 2 edge. You can stick with the 1 edge. Both times you lose that 79. You're gonna lose that 79. Maybe you need to give a future pick that's going to be conditional or something along those lines. But I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can go about this. And this is the kind of stuff that they do while they're sitting there at their breakfast meeting.
Yes.
Like, all right, well, what does this situation look like? All right, cool. What does this situation look like? All right, cool. And they don't use these mock draft machines, right? They sit there and they break down every single team, every single pick for hours. What's this guy going to do? What's this guy going to do? What's this guy going to do?
Falcon fans, you are hearing it from not only One Time for the Fan, you're hearing it from Scott Karisic. There's a reason why we brought him here to the podcast before draft season, or I'm sorry, during draft season and before the draft, because we want fans to really be involved in this draft process. I think last year fans were really stuck on it's Carter. They need this guy. They need to get that. I want this year for fans to really go over some of these mocks that, you know, we've been talking about, as you can see here tonight. Set your big board, set your draft board, and go do some research on some of these players. That's the homework for all of us. Because when Cody Schrader, if he does get drafted by the Falcons, I want fans to say, Cody Schrader, that guy's a gem right there. You don't need fans saying, who is that guy? Why do we get him when we had such and such on the board?
Schrader's a damn gem.
Mm-hmm.
Schrader had himself a game. I was just watching him. I was like, I don't know why I like this guy so much, the way he's playing. And I'm like, you know what? It's because he reminds me a lot of Devontae Freeman when Freeman was in college. And you just saw something, you're like, this guy's going to be a steal for somebody.
Why
he's
Cody
like 5'7".
Jr.?
Gore Jr. is only good in name. Cody put up a 6 yards per carry average on 276 attempts at 1,600 rushing yards this year. In the SEC, 14 touchdowns, playing for Missouri. Didn't have the best offensive line, still put up that kind of yardage.
How big is he? How big is Cody?
5'9", 205.
Yeah, he's one of the smaller backs.
Okay.
He's a bowling ball, though.
Interesting combine, too, as well for him.
He had a 4.6 in the combine, but his 10-yard split was just as good as everybody else's. His running back speed score is still over 100, which that's kind of like a threshold thing for me. It's the 40 divided by the weight. It's a, like, for comparison, Blake Corum, 97 on that. You want a guy over 95, that's a quality NFL back. You know, that's one of those where analytics comes in. Does the 40 matter? It does correlate to success at running back. So,
Falcon fans, we came away with a B+ on both drafts. Big shout out to Scott Karisic for assisting us with this too as well. Scott Karisic's One Time for the Fan 1.0 draft went well on both sides. When you traded for Hassan Reddick and then you didn't trade for Hassan Reddick, you still came away with talent that you know will be playing, that fans will be excited about, and then you can definitely improve your roster. I think we talked about that enough tonight.
That's the important thing.
Improving the roster. And for fans here in the chat, you've heard it not only from Terry and Chase too as well, but you're hearing it from me and Scott. This team is built to go and win. You're going to add the right pieces in place to go and get the job done to, Scott, win the NFC South. The team should be set up enough for that.
If Terry drafts the way he's been drafting the last 3 years, absolutely.
You get these type of feelings, Falcon fans, months before the season starts. We have draft in a couple weeks. That news could break tomorrow morning that we've brought in, that we're going to bring in Reddick, or they're going to get this guy, or they're going to sign this guy, or restructure. That's the cool thing about the offseason. Everybody can sit here and talk Falcons football. We can enjoy this together. There's going to be different debates going on, and people throwing their opinions around and throwing their opinion around. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to try to find a way to win. I think we won tonight on this podcast, Terry, with having Scott Karisic here. It's setting us up for draft night. We know that this is great.
Definitely.
I'll pop in on draft night. I'll be, but I'll pop in and give my thoughts on all that.
This is great. So now we can add Scott Karisic to our celebrity guest list of our Falcon fans that will be joining us on draft night. I know
probably be jumping around a bunch of different shows, man. I'll probably be on the British guys shows, the Falcons UK show. I'll be on y'all's. Whoever wants me, I'll come join, man.
This is good. We want Falcon fans to enjoy what we have going on. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. To Evolve, we're the last ones left. Great job, fellas, in the chat. This is 2.5 hours of podcasting for Falcons fans, and we do it for you all. It's one time for the fan. It's from the fan for the fans, because we are all fans at the end of the day. Lisa Shepard said, always love hearing Scott talk Falcons football. Lisa Shepard.
Lisa and I hung out when we were in England, like 3 out of the first 4 days we were there. And Lisa is salt of the earth, man. She's awesome. She's fantastic. But like, we were sitting there just talking Falcons probably 3-4 hours every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just me and her, and my wife was like, oh God. And my wife would just like walk away and just be like, all right, he's done for the next 2 hours. Like,
and the thing about this that we're telling you is real when it comes from Falcon fans. We sat here for 2.5 hours on a Sunday night going over things that the Falcons are talking about on their own, but they're getting paid to do that. Right. But they're also trying to bring a championship to this city. We as fans are
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, Lisa Shepard, everybody in the chat. Big shout out to you all. But we as fans are looking at what Terry is doing. We're looking at what Raheem is doing, Zach Robinson, and we're finding ways to be positive about. We're gonna come out week 1 and kick ass. We're gonna come out week 4 and be 3-1 or 4-0, because fans they have the ability to believe in this team, and that's what we want them to do. Believe in this team. Understand that Terry wants us to win. Nobody wants to lose.
And Raheem is a Ted Lasso type coach.
Yeah.
Like, he is that positive, effervescent energy. And in the building, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. I do see a couple comments in here I just kind of want to touch on.
Go ahead.
One guy says, with Dallas and Latu, do we move Harrison inside the defensive tackle? Falcons run they're going to run an offset 34 scheme, not a true like 5-tech, 0-tech, 5-tech. It's going to be a weak side 3-tech, a strong side 1-tech, and then a strong side 5-tech. That strong side 5-tech is what Harrison and Campbell were running last year. So that's not changing this year. That's the exact same position. He's keeping the exact same role he'll be in. That doesn't change.
And it's not like a bulking up or losing weight for this role too as well, right?
Yeah, you don't have to bulk up or lose weight. Like, he just has to do what he's been doing. Emmanuel McFarland asked about Jonah Ellis from Utah. Like the 5th of the 12 Ellis boys that are playing for Utah through the years. Like, there's going to be another 7 come through that place. There's 12 different Ellis boys. Like,
you gotta like Utah defensive players, man. Those guys get after it.
They are schemed up and they are trained up properly. They got
a beautiful stadium they play for too as well.
And they run a pro scheme. Jonah Ellis, I'm a big fan of Jonah Ellis. Had him in my last mock. He's a very
the movie star
pass rusher
from Superbad. No, I'm just playing.
No, that's Jonah. That's Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
That's Jonah Hill. That's like one of my cousins, man. Jonah Hill is not my actual cousin, but when I say like one of my cousins, I mean one of us unathletic short people. Like, no, Jonah Hill does not fit. So, like, yeah, Jonah Ellis, fantastic football player. He's got some technique refinement, which is why he's going in the 3rd. He may not be the absolute most athletic dude out there, but he's going to get after it. He's very similar to his brother, Caden. Again, I'm a big fan of just collect the Ellis boys like they're Pokemon cards. Like, get Christian for depth at middle linebacker. Get I think Noah. They all have biblical names. Get Noah for defensive tackle. Get Jonah for edge.
It's kind of like seeing a Watt name in the draft or a Manning name. Like, wait, there's a Manning or a Watt here.
Like, you're going to get a good, sound defensive player who's going to want to bust some heads. That's an Ellis brother. Like, it's like the Matthews brothers on the offensive line. Yeah. You're going to get a good, sound offensive lineman who want to bust somebody's head in. Like, that's fine. That's what I want.
Falcon fans. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that was – let's see. I think that was the main two that I saw that I was like, I kind of want to answer those real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
This is great.
Yeah, those were the last two comments, right? But yeah, Jonah's a good football player. So if the Falcons got Jonah, he fit right in. He and Caden would love starting for the same team together. Ebiketie would be like, these guys are maniacs. All right, I'm down. Like, let's get after the quarterback. Those blitz packages and those 3-3-5 nickel packages they're going to run are going to be so much fun to watch.
Keep drawing them up. Yep.
So they'll have some plays where they might be dropping. They'll have Harrison. They'll have Harrison, Jarrett, and Onyemata on the line. You'll have Ellis, Ebiketie on the outside. And you'll have Caden Ellis right there in the middle. And they'll have some packages where it looks like that, 3-3-5 Cubs, something like that. And it'll just be get after the quarterback, front five are all rushing.
And you're naming that without trying to throw Riddick into the mix or Dallas Turner into the mix or whoever they're
I'm just going current roster plus a Jonah Ellis, right?
Yeah, you can't beat that. You come
like
on,
that'd be a fun group to watch. And again, sometimes you just have to break down what you have and see how you can use what you have. And then go, you know what? Let me just grab talent. Who's the best guy on my board right now? The best guy. And NFL teams run horizontal boards. So you know how like all these draft sites, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a vertical board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Horizontal board is, all right, I've got these guys all graded at a 9.9. I got these guys all graded at a 9.8. And I like, organized by position. All right, I got these guys graded at a 7, and these guys graded at a 6, and these guys graded at a 5. Like, all right, well, I've got like a 9 at corner and a 9 at edge, but I have like a whole bunch of 8s, and I'm picking 8 overall. All right, well, maybe if I trade down, I can still get one of my 9s.
Mm-hmm.
So they might trade down and then still grab a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how the NFL runs their boards.
And then when you get to like the end of the draft, you try to get your highest 6th that you can or the highest 5th that you can, as whatever's left.
Honestly, at the end of the draft, you're sitting there with a bunch of 3s and 2s, and you're just like, you know what? UDFA time. Like, if I have,
and if you can work a 3 or a 2 into becoming a 6 or a 7, that's good. That's what development. That's what development is, right?
And some teams may have a 6 or a 7 sitting there, and they're like, how's this guy in the 6th?
Yeah.
So they just politely send their card in. They go, I'll take Foye Aluakon in the 6th round. Dummies.
DeMarco Hellams.
I'll take DeMarco Hellams in the 7th round. Dummies. Y'all leaving him for me. I'll take him in a heartbeat.
Towards the end of the season, getting more of the snap count than your 2nd round pick.
DeMarco's year 1 to year 2 is going to be something to watch. I think Clark Phillips in the 4th round was very similar. They're probably like, man, we got a 2nd round grade on this cat. How's he still available? Same thing with Harrison. They're probably like, man, we had a low 1 on this guy. How's he still available?
Do you see?
I know for a fact they had a mid 1 on Matthew Bergeron. They loved Matthew Bergeron. The Cowboys did too, and they traded up for him because the Cowboys were about to trade back.
Remember the video? We do remember the video when they mentioned Matthew Bergeron. Falcon fans in the chat, as we get ready to wrap up this podcast, I want you guys to take away these 2.5 hours of talking with Scott tonight and Chase and Terry of not only of how, serious we are about this team winning, but listen to how Scott is breaking down not only draft boards, but of course the conversations that are being had behind the scenes, what Terry and Raheem and Zach and the guys could be talking about too as well. Scott really breaks down a lot of this stuff. We talk about it on the channel too as well. And then when you bring in a diehard fan like Scott, who does his homework, and his research, it kind of just brings everything all together of not only what we've been saying on the podcast, but of course what the Falcons could be saying too as well, how they look at their board, why they would bring in a Dallas Turner, why they would trade for Hassan Reddick, why they would go restructure X, Y, and Z versus touching Grady and Jesse Bates. How, Scott, as we get ready to wrap this up, man, how do you do this? Like I'm serious, right? We're almost 3 hours in. Like, how do you do this? Like, I know it's
and do you need an apprentice?
Shit.
Man, I've been
wife and the fam and everything going on, and you got your work too as well, and you talk with fans in the Discord and on Twitter, and you talk to me about. I mean, you told me about the computers that you have in front of you and what you do for work, but how do you just do this? Like, you just lock in, the Falcons. You lock into a level where it's like, this is what
ADHD is a superpower. Is the best thing
I love it.
Because I have film going on. Like, have you ever heard that your subconscious can read and can do stuff in the background, even if you're already doing something else, right?
Yeah.
And that's how like speed readers speed read and still absorb the information. So like, I just have film playing and I just sit there and I'll look up and I might be in the middle of work and I've got film going on, volume off. I'm working and I look up and I see a play, man. I'm like, oh, that's pretty nice. And I'm still working. Because my ADHD is like, okay, cool. That's the gremlin being fed, my little ADHD gremlin inside being fed.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's my subconscious just watching the film, right? So while that's going on, I'm working. And that's just what I do. Like,
the Falcons could put out a report and then go try to fix their depth chart. Scott already has it already. He already has it out.
Already on it,
Or just one type of report Scott already put out where they're looking like
it's an Excel spreadsheet. That's all it is.
That's
all it is. And mine's just a projection, right? So mine's just like where I expect them to play moving forward, what I expect them to do. So if you see like weak side defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, 3 tech, right? That's probably his position. Strong side nose tackle David Onyemata. Like, I'll share this on the screen. Might as well.
Falcon fans better get another dose. Here we go. Gotta love talking Falcons football. Terry, I'm telling you, man, this is what it's all about.
So like, I literally have a document here, and it's the Falcons roster. It's the Falcons depth chart. It's Terry Fontenot's draft history.
Before. We've pulled this up before on channel, but now Scott can show you in depth
the coaching staff. When I sit here and I look at draft comparisons, like this is the Falcons offensive line.
Falcon fans, look at this.
Combine
Scott
stuff.
is getting us. He's giving us the in depth right now.
My contract. It's all spreadsheets, man.
Look at this.
I was raised by accountants, so like Excel is a second language to me. So that's
by accountants.
So like I use Excel for everything, man.
The wolf of Peachtree.
I'm just saying, like that's why I have everything in this format, like because this is how my brain absorbs it.
Look at his key. He highlights. Scott, can you go over the key too as well? The colors, why you have it highlighted. What is so important about that too as well?
So this is just PFF grade, right? Because I was like, if I'm sitting here saying this guy's elite, but like PFF has him as under 45, I look like a moron, right? So this is just PFF grade. Elite is anybody over 80. That is what PFF says is elite, right? So an elite player is someone who gets over 80. You look at this offense: Kirk Cousins, Tyler Algier, Drew Dahlman, Chris Lindstrom are all considered elite players at their position. David Onyemata, Jesse Bates, elite players at their position.
Some would say David. How so? David had one of the highest PFF rates as a pass rusher.
He was an 82 or something like that.
Even being injured
for a couple games. Just below elite, very good. You could say great players. Drake London's right there. He didn't get enough opportunity in the pass game because the Falcons passed it like 480 times.
And he was still shy of 1,000 yards.
He was still shy of 1,000 yards, but he didn't get that many targets.
With 2 quarterbacks that were benched.
Exactly. Caleb McGarry was considered just below elite because of his run blocking prowess. Now, McGarry's raised his pass blocking prowess from, we'll say, needs replacement, this ugly orange color. He's brought it up to about average.
Some would say serviceable.
No, it's about average.
Okay.
I'm gonna be upfront with you. He's about average. I think he could get it to above average this year, which is all it needs to be.
Which is good.
Bergeron, right? Bergeron was serviceable. He was also a rookie.
So the contract with McGarry, when they paid him, why so much at that point when, for right now, looking at the grades, he wasn't even at the level just for that 1 year? He was going into that serviceable last year of the contract, so fans were like, okay, what are we going to do? Keep him or let him go?
McGarry was actually very good last year too.
Yes.
McGarry was above 80 last year.
Yes.
He's above 75 this year. He's been worth the money. If you're looking at PFF grade, he's been worth the money. He Matthews
was a top 10 tackle the year before when he got paid, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was a top 5 tackle when he got paid. Like Jake Matthews, he's always worth the money. Bergeron, he was worth the pick because your average first year rookie lineman is this ugly needs replacement orange color every year, no matter who it is. It's almost always going to be that color. Your first year offensive lineman. The fact that he was even serviceable, according to PFF, is a huge deal. Bergeron's going to be good this year.
Played every game too.
Played every snap. He's going to be really good. Had never played guard in his life. Only ever played left tackle. They moved him to guard. And he was a little rough to start with, but he got it going and he won up. It was
forget what game it was. He was over there pushing some people around in the end zone after we scored, and some players tried to talk some shit, and Bergeron went over there like, nah, I don't think I'm a rookie. I don't think I'm a rookie 24/7 now. I'll get off.
Yeah, I'll throw some hands. Like that's Bergeron. I'm a big fan of the iceberg. And then like Bijan, right? Bijan was above average last year. He has potential to be elite. Kyle Pitts was above average last year. He has potential to be elite. But like even some of these guys in other schemes on other teams, they were serviceable, maybe replacement level, and that's what came in, right? Hodge was average in his limited snaps. Fisk was bad, right? Heineke was replacement level, which that's a backup level guy. If your backup level guys are replacement level, that's okay. If your backup guys are this serviceable color, that's okay. That's why I'm excited about the defense, even though they might not have replaced Campbell or Dupree.
Looking at your take, I know you're getting ready. I know you're breaking this down here. Looking at your take, Scott, when you're bringing in a guy like Kirk Cousins now, you should have more of the above average guys on your offense because you already have, Matthews and Lindstrom and McGarry that's been performing on the line.
So you look at these guys that are already performing well. He's going to bring your wide receivers up.
Yeah.
Bringing in a Kirk Cousins brings these guys that might be average, serviceable replacement level. It's going to bring their play up. So London, who's already very good, is going to have his play raised.
Tack on
Bijan,
an extra 200-300 yards for him. Yep.
Bijan, who's already above average, is going to have his play raised.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts, who's already above average, is going to have his play raised.
Yeah.
So while these guys may not be great right now, a lot of that has to do with the quarterback play.
Yes.
Mooney was being thrown to by Fields. Moore was being thrown to by
injured Arizona
Clayton
Kyler Murray, who didn't even want to read the damn playbook, who got paid $350 some million.
Yeah, Clayton Tune, Kyler Murray. He was the number 4 receiver there. They didn't really have a good plan for him. Moore is coming here. The Falcons wouldn't have traded for Moore if they didn't feel they had a good plan for him. They wouldn't have given up Ritter for him either.
Yeah. Terry?
So.
No, I agree. I agree with that 100%. I think they ran a lot of wide receiver screens with Moore, but he is a fast, quick, decisive receiver, and I agree. I think they do have plans for him.
He is a field stretcher.
Yeah.
He was used in college as a field stretcher.
Mm-hmm.
He was not used in Arizona as a field stretcher.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think there was a disagreement, to your point, Scott, with Moore and the coaching staff on using him more to stretch the field. I remember reading that somewhere. So you're correct. Scott, I have one more question for you.
Go for it.
I got 10, so we can get them all in tonight.
Scott, as we so often say, there's the world we live in and the world we would love to live in. I would like, if you would, to just travel with me to the world we would love to live in, right?
Oh, where the Falcons are 7 straight time Super Bowl champions?
Absolutely that, but let's start with this, right? Absolutely. So in 2007 and 2011, the Giants won. I think they both were 9-win teams, right? Barely making it into the playoffs, and they got on a run. Okay.
Absolutely.
With that being the mindset, and not that we'd lose 9 games, but just, work with me here. The Falcons win the Super Bowl if. Go ahead and finish that for me.
The Falcons win the Super Bowl if they win the division, they make the playoffs, they have a home game. Let's say they go up against the number 2 team in the NFC East, and it's the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
They kick the shit out of the Dallas Cowboys.
Love it.
Because they are not a good matchup. In Atlanta, if Kirk Cousins is firing on all cylinders and this team wins that division, so they go 11-5 or 11-6, they get that number 4 seed, that's fine, right?
I'm starting to smile already.
Yeah. Dallas might go 12-5 or 13-4, but they can't play in the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you get Dallas, you kick the shit out of them. Right?
And Dax last year, he's gone too.
Dax last year, he's going to dip out. He's going to mail it in. He won't give a shit. So you kick the shit out of Dallas. All right, next game, right? You got the winner of, I don't know, let's just say it's Tampa Bay. They
Throw
get
San
that.
Fran back in there.
They get that wild card. And the 3 seed is your NFC North winning Detroit Lions again.
Detroit. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Let's say this time the Bucks win. All right. Well, let's say the Falcons split the series with the Bucks this year.
Okay.
But game's at home. Because Bucks were a wild card.
Right.
Falcons win that one.
Gotcha. Now we're in the NFC Championship.
Now you're in the NFC Championship game.
Okay.
You got the 1 seed. You got the 49ers. Oh, no.
In San Fran.
In San Fran. The 2 seed got kicked out because it was like, let's see, Northeast. It was the East. It was Eagles. And they lost to 7 seed Packers, right? Packers just went on a run. But then they went to San Fran and got their shit kicked in.
Gotcha.
So you go to San Francisco, and Brock Purdy has a tendency to want to look like Desmond Ridder sometimes and throw some interceptions. Well, Jesse Bates knows this. And Jesse Bates coaches up his team. And that's a defensive stand-down game. And, maybe you only score 21. But your defense has 4 picks. And your kicker, Young Hoku, he's been kicking these 35-yard field goals all game. He kicked 7 of those bitches through. Like, and you win 21-7.
Okay.
Shanahan gets fired.
Right? Then you go and you play in the Super Bowl, and you play it against a team that should not be there on the
Dolphins.
Side.
Miles Garrett posted a picture earlier. Raheem Morris was standing over Mike McDaniel at the NFL coaches meeting when they took their picture today. And I tweeted to Miles, I said, Falcons, Dolphins, Super Bowl, there it is.
Or Browns.
Or Browns, shit.
Or Browns.
Or the Titans.
Titans ain't going. Or here's another team. No, dude, Titans ain't making the playoffs. This Titans team is trash.
Yeah.
They're going to go like 5-12 this year, and that's okay. Jaguars put it all together, right? They put it all together. They somehow get to the Super Bowl. They're a 14-3 team, and they got all this momentum, and they're the 1 seed, and Jaguars just all over the place, right? Trevor Lawrence is a pumpkin. His Cinderella story's over. He gets to this team. He goes against Atlanta. And that pass rush that came in this year, just all over him.
Gotcha.
Kirk Frost.
Right. That line's rough. That defense, Terry Fontenot knows that defense. He just had to scout for that defense all year.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Fontenot passes all of his scouting notes down to the coaches and says, listen, we know this defense. We just ran this defense.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins attacks the shit out of this defense.
Okay.
There's holes all over it. You saw what the Bears did, all the schematic things the Bears did against this defense. They just run that same scheme against it. And they destroy Jacksonville.
Love it.
It's a 35-6 victory in the Super Bowl.
Love it.
And Kirk goes unconscious, and Kirk just has a ridiculous Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's the world that I want to live in.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
what we're talking about, right? The world I want to live in.
Amen.
This is the I go to sleep and this is what I dream of shit.
Amen. I'm there with you, brother. I'm there with you.
Happen, but
yeah.
I mean, hell, if it actually happens, I'm down.
This is what I figured was going to happen with the podcast tonight. I knew when Scott came into this podcast that he was going to talk Falcons football on a level that all Falcons fans. Guess what? There's a bunch of people still here in the chat. That's been here since we started the show. People keep getting added and joining. I don't care how the numbers look. I just know that there's a bunch of people in this chat that love talking Falcons football. And Scott, for honestly, for 3 hours, you have blessed us.
Now you see why I say I can't do Friday mornings?
Yeah, I see why. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Come on, man.
Scott blessed us with knowledge.
I would work for this team in a heartbeat if they would ever hire me.
Yeah,
I think
they would have to pay me more than what I'm making doing my job, and that would be
just imagine their meeting, their agenda for the day. Like, oh, you guys got a meeting with Scott Carissa at 11:15. Here, Terry's like, Jesus Christ.
No, dude, Terry would probably be like, all right, we're gonna go do a long lunch.
Yeah,
we're gonna have some beers.
Yeah,
we're gonna watch some film on the iPads,
which is
we're
good.
Gonna pick out our new players.
Which is good.
Let's just have some fun. Like, this is the most organized dude I've ever worked with.
Which is good. And that's why we're glad that you can also be here tonight, but you'll be back on the draft show. So Falcon fans in the chat, I know you're listening. I know you're watching Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You're probably going to go and get ready for draft night and say, where can I go watch the pod? Where can I watch the draft? Where can I chat with other Falcon fans who want to talk Falcons football? And you can do it here on One Time for the Fan, because Scott Carissa will be with us. We'll have some other Falcon fans talking Falcons football with us. But tonight, as you can see, Emmanuel McFarland said talking Falcons football is like that first long morning stretch. It's like you wake up, I'm ready to talk Falcons all day.
You're gonna put this up on YouTube tomorrow, and you're gonna have some people like a data entry job being like, 3 hours.
This is what you want. This is what you want. We're getting people ready for the draft. We want people to understand that even with the Falcons pick, now get this, even with the Falcons picking at 8, because we've done the draft show before, you can be sitting here at 8 and the Falcons don't pick to around like 8:50, close to 9.
Yeah.
Honestly, they may not pick until 9:30.
9:30, the way the draft is set up with the commercials and all the breaks. And here's the funny thing.
And if they trade down.
Yep. And if they trade down, well, we're sitting here till like 12 o'clock at night, Falcon fans. But teams know who they want. Scott, you know this. Teams know who they want, but they're just letting the clock run down because of the marketing and how it's supposed to be doing the advertisements and all this stuff and shit. They love that.
Nope. Teams know who they want, but the main reason why the clock takes so long is there's either a coin flip of do we want this guy or do we want this guy, or it's a trade situation. And there are teams that will get there on draft night, just like we saw with the Cowboys and that one clip that was posted, and they showed, hey, this is how we chose, the Michigan defensive tackle versus the Syracuse offensive lineman.
Like how the Cowboys was with Bergeron. Yeah.
Right. They were going to take Bergeron at 18 if that Michigan defensive tackle wasn't there. So that's how NFL teams are. They're like, all right, we got some good grades on these offensive linemen. We got some other guys we might like later. we might be able to still get the Syracuse guy later. Let's go ahead and just take the Michigan defensive tackle. That's our guy, right?
Yeah.
That's what NFL teams are doing all day. Oh man, we like this USC quarterback. All right, we're gonna take him. Oh, there's a last minute trade offer. All right, what you got? So I could get 11, 23, first round next year, first round the year after, first round the year after, first round. I could get 6 first round picks.
Oh wait, hold on. The Vikings are calling. I call you back. That type of shit.
It is the Vikings though, and now y'all can go screw off. We're taking Caleb Williams. That's how the draft night actually goes. That's why it takes a couple minutes to get these picks in.
Which is good. So for Falcon fans that's going to be here draft night, be prepared for what we're going to be doing. We want to make sure fans are excited and they're, ready to see who the next group of stars that the Falcons are going to bring in here. Scott, once again, I can't thank you enough for doing this podcast. Every minute that we asked another question or we spoke about another player or the future of the team, it was just more experience and knowledge that you were giving us about what you do as not only a fan, but a journalist too as well. I mean, Falcon fans go to you for information because you've done this on a very high level before.
And if I ever say I have sources on Twitter, it's an agent. I will tell you that right up front.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I've been told something by some scout that I ran into.
Sources. Got to watch out for those.
But I'm not going to sit here and put information out there like the Falcons are totally going to do this move.
Right.
Because the guys the sources that are out there that you can get aren't decision makers.
Yeah.
You're not having the GM call you directly and say, hey, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
So if your source is like, oh, well, the Falcons really like Latu over Verse. Yeah. Or the Falcons really like Latu over Turner and Verse. Yeah, maybe that scout you're talking to does.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the Falcons as a whole like Latu better than Verse.
Yeah. Some fans would do the same thing when they ask me, they'd be like, well, some of the players' family, like talk to them. Like, what are they gonna tell me? They're not gonna tell me nothing. That's why I don't call them and ask them that stupid stuff. Like, what's the point?
The only time player family connects are fun is if it's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I do want to go to Atlanta, but they are lowballing me. And you're like, well, this ain't gonna be likely.
Fans.
You whenever you hear information out that gets put out, and it's sources, the sources that are out there are probably going to be guys that don't make decisions, and guys that don't make decisions in the end do not matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do not matter. And they have an agenda. So if you hear, a random dude on Twitter and he's like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and say like the Falcons have interest in Hassan Reddick because I heard from my buddy who works from the team that they like Hassan Reddick. Okay, cool. But does that mean Terry's actually considering it?
That's true. Yeah.
People can use Scott and say Scott is sources because Scott maybe tweeted something and they're like, oh, we heard from our sources that this player may be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
Scott's not the source.
I don't work for the team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've got friends that might work for the team, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna sit here and say, oh my God, hey, this guy is who they want. Like, no.
Yeah.
I will put information out there like, okay, there's a reason why all these mock drafts are saying Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just one guy. It's like all the big NFL network and ESPN guys are saying Dallas Turner, Dallas Turner, Dallas Turner. And it's not just connecting the dots. It's they also have some other information coming in to say, hey, this is probably going to be Dallas Turner. This is the pick I'm going to throw in my mock.
Yeah.
So if all these other guys are doing it, maybe that's probably because that's the guy that's going to be the pick.
Yeah.
It's just following the patterns.
Yeah.
And everybody has an agenda with the information they're putting out there too.
Yes.
So you might get information from an agent and it gets put out there. And I might have heard the same thing from an agent friend of mine, but I might just be like, I don't trust it.
Scott, you probably seen this too as well earlier before the free agency started and before all this, off-season news. Dallas Turner from CBS Sports and some of the other outlets were like, "Oh, that's the Falcons' pick at 8. It's Dallas Turner." This is before Kirk Cousins. This is before all this information. And then you're getting closer to the draft, and it's like he still could be the pick at 8. And it's like
almost like they had some discussions with Dallas Turner.
But they were talking about this weeks and months ago, and it's like, how are they just that on point with certain shit? It's like,
because journalists will go and they will source and double source and triple source and quadruple source. And if you talk with some of these guys, they're like, okay, dude, I've got friends with this team and this team and this team, and all these other teams are of the impression that this is the pick. And they're of the impression that this is the pick because their friends that work for your team said this is the pick.
Yes, which is why we can go to why the Falcons didn't want to go to draft night without having a quarterback, because they probably figured 1, 2, and 3 is not giving up.
Why do you think I keep saying
quarterback?
It's Caleb, Jaden Daniels, Drake May.
Yeah,
that's the top 3.
Yeah,
period.
I've spoke about it.
Is Harrison.
Yeah.
And 5 is the trade up spot for the Vikings for them to go get JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
That's your top 5.
And Falcon fans, I talked about this on the channel when we went to draft scenarios and quarterbacks and free agency. And you can go back and look and one time for the fan, why the Falcons would select the Kirk Cousins or select a veteran quarterback before the draft. You did not know you can get 1, 2, or 3. And these guys, this is a business. They know this.
Honestly, stuff. The reason why they went and got Cousins is because they knew 1, 2, and 3 are not being traded.
Yes.
Those guys know who they want.
Yes.
They're taking the top or the second quarterback on their board.
Yeah.
Because like every team has Caleb Williams as the top quarterback on their board.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ones that say that they don't is probably Washington because they're going to take them 2 overall.
Yeah.
And probably the Patriots because they're like, we'll just say Drake's our top guy because Drake is probably their number 2 guy on the board.
I mean, Mayo's comments when he became the head coach the second day he spoke with CBS Sports, and he told them, we're going to draft the most important position that we need for our franchise.
Sit him for a year.
Yep. And then you got the guy, our Washington friend, Bacon
Dang
Steve,
fun.
who was in here in the chat with us a couple weeks ago and said, I love the show. I love the podcast. I know you guys are talking about trading up, but let me tell you what's happening in Washington right now as a Commanders fan. We're not giving up that second pick. So just go ahead and yeah, as a fan, you see Commanders fans in our chat and they're like, we love it, but let me tell you what's happening in Washington right now.
They're not trading.
To help you Falcon fans out.
We're
not
England.
Trading that too.
New England might trade, but it's very unlikely. And if they do trade, I think New England's trading with the Vikings. And then they're trading back up to 5. And they're trading with the Vikings and getting future firsts and all that. And then they trade back up to 5 with 11 and 23. And then the Chargers are going to get that 11 and 23.
Yeah. And this happens in draft, Falcon fans. So just be prepared for what's going to happen. I want everybody to be ready for draft night. We're going to be here. We'll be live. It'll be something like this show. I think we're already over the 3-hour mark. But that's what we do when we talk Falcons football. It doesn't matter about the time. It just matters about people feeling good about listening to Falcon fans talk Falcons football. I continue to say that 100 times, and I will continue to say it again. It's for Scott. You got your flag behind you. It's for the logo. It's for the brand. We love this organization. We want to see them win. Man. Shit. We want to see them win. And just like when I talked to Scott in London, or I talked to Scott on Twitter, or right here on the podcast, it's the same Scott. It's a guy who knows that this team can do this, this, and this if they do this, this, and this. And that's the same way I feel about it too. But
it's
now,
charts, man.
It's life.
It's life. And you have to be prepared for the team to do something that you may not love.
Yes.
You got to be okay with it. Like, I may not love Latu as my top edge. That doesn't mean I don't think he can be good here. It's okay. The team is probably on a different page than the fan base on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But they know they need an edge. They know they need that franchise John Abraham type guy. That Patrick Kearney type guy.
Falcon fans, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Scott, before we get up out of here, where can we find you on social media? Fans definitely want to chat with you off air. We're going to get you back on the podcast soon in a couple of weeks, but where can we find you on social media? Blogging Dirty, podcast, what are you writing? Everything, Scott.
So Blogging Dirty, I'm about to start my potential Atlanta Falcons draft pick profiles. once I get all the combine numbers in, I'll probably do about 30 of them this year. I'll pick my top 30 guys that I think could be drafted by the team, just all throughout the draft, and I'll make profiles of them. I'll do combine numbers, a comparison, physical, stylistic comparison of who I think they play like, strengths, weaknesses, basically a scouting report of what I see. And it might be different than what other guys see, right? But I'll put what I see. I'm probably not touching on quarterbacks this year because they just signed Kirk. I don't think they take a quarterback this year. I might do one on Rattler. I've been debating on it.
You're doing 30 players. At least put one quarterback in there.
I know. I think Rattler might be the guy that I do because they've been the most connected to him so far.
Penix is not in there. We probably say that Penix is not in there.
I don't think they end up taking Penix at any point. Like I might still do a profile on Penix just because I like him. Like I do like Penix. I think he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a good player
to build a team around. But I think it could cause a controversy and a frustration among the fan base when they're not playing Penix. And it's like we don't need that here right now. Unquestioned starter. Shut the fans up. Like just let people do their thing. Like Kirk throws a pick, but he goes 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, Falcons win the game. You're still going to hear people go, well, Kirk threw a pick. Dude, he threw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. We just won 35-14. Yeah, of course, he threw a pick, whatever. Who gives a shit? We won by 21
fans were calling
points.
for Ritter after a win with some of his performances. So
it's just stupid. So at a certain point, you're just like, all right, whatever. Let's just go and just like not worry about it because no one's going to call for Heineke. No one's going to call for Heineke, period. And be like, dude, we know what that guy is. He sucks. Like he's your last resort backup guy that can start a game. So at that point, you just kind of let it be and punt on quarterback for the year. Maybe you take a guy late and he's like a third string guy and you develop him to be that next Heineke, but you don't develop him to be the next starter. But yeah, like I'm gonna do profiles on 30 guys on Blogging Dirty. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Karasik S. I have it listed on my tag on here. You can find me. I'm down to talk football all day. I really am. I could do this. I always joke, like, if 92.9 The Game wanted to hire me tomorrow, I could do 8 hours just pulling random people to talk Falcons football. And I would just do it and love it. And, I mean, you could have me and Jack and T-Will and whoever else wants to join us any given day. We'll talk all day. Just put us on the radio. We'll do it all day. I'd be totally down.
3-hour podcast. We haven't even mentioned bowling, which we're going to get to the next time we have Scott on here. T-Will.
Hey, man. Hey, let me tell you something. Scott, I don't say this lightly. I am honored. This has been an experience. I have been educated. I have been I'm just in awe, man. I'm a fan. So I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to say thank you. If you have a class, sign me up for it. Loved it. Loved everything about it. Thank you for gracing the air with me because, hey, man, like I said, if you're looking for an apprentice, I will be the Luke Skywalker to your Obi-Wan. I'm a fan. I appreciate it. I think you phenomenally break things down in a way that is digestible to the layman. And that is not a fan that everyone has. I appreciate it. This was by far so much fun. So please, anytime you want to come on this show, just let us know. With that being said, hey, I'm gonna do my shout out. I have to go and attend to my mother who's elder. But again, Scott, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate it. Hey, shout outs. Thank God. Jack, as always, our gracious host. I cannot thank you enough. You keep inviting me. I'll keep coming back. And Scott, this was an experience, man.
Yeah, unless it's a Friday morning, whenever Jack wants me on this pod, I'm down. I know I can't take 3 hours out of a Friday morning at my job because I do car loans for a living. And I mean, that's my busy day. Like,
understood. Yeah,
that's my busiest day of the week. So when he's like, "Yeah, I got a Friday," I'm like, "Dude, I'm sorry. Like, I got to do my job. I got to get paid. I got to cover the mortgage, man. Like, at least my share of it." Like,
I understand, but like I said, this show was it. My wife is looking at me like, "Shut up!" But honestly, this was the most fun I've had. I learned so much. And the funny thing about talking to you is I have 50 more questions, but I can't ask you that now.
hey,
But I look for me on Twitter. I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow. So with that being said,
what's your Twitter?
I don't have one yet. I'm gonna make it up tonight, and I'll look for me tomorrow.
You got questions. Scott has answers.
I'm like, I'll add you. I'll follow you right back. Like,
okay,
no problem.
Okay, that's a bet.
We thank you, man, for doing this, and we're going to end the show all together here. Falcon fans, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast. Scott Karisic has been a blessing here on the channel. Not once, not twice, probably 3 or 4 times you've been here now, Scott.
Hey, you ever want me on, I'm down.
He's going to be back for draft night 2 as well. This is going to be great because we spent 3 hours talking about draft. Might as well get him back in here for draft night and talk some Falcons football.
Let's do it.
Please go follow Scott Karisic. Everything that he's doing over there, support his movement, of course, with Blogging Dirty, and they're going to be putting out some articles too as well. You never know if he's going to be hired by somebody soon, or somebody's going to be looking at this. Somebody's looking at this podcast and say, "This guy knows Falcons football. We might want to bring him in."
Dude, I'll put it this way: I doubt it. I doubt I just randomly get hired by a team, or honestly, if I got offered by a bunch of different teams, I'd just be like, "Dude, you're not the Falcons." Unless the Falcons wanted to hire me, and like they'd have to pay me a decent amount for me to quit my day job because I still got a mortgage to pay. That's the only way I do it. Like I would work for the Falcons. I would disappear from Twitter tomorrow though. Because I'd be just sitting there with like Terry and being like, "All right, here's the cap situation."
Yeah.
Because if I'm gonna work for the Falcons, I'm gonna use what I know. And that's money. That's
we'll
accounting.
only see one of the pictures in the background when they have like the vision shots where Terry's picture's there, but they'll see like a guy in the background. Like, is that Scott Karisic in the background?
Yeah, well, you'd see me. I'd be like listed as like director of cap relations or something like that. It'd be like he's our contract negotiator. It'd be like your contract.
Training camp. We're all behind the yellow rope. Here comes Scott walking on the field. Scott, you remember us? We're the podcast. Remember us?
Yeah, and I'd walk over and be like, "What's up, guys?"
Oh gosh.
What can you tell me? Not a damn thing. Like
this is great, Falcon fans.
That's what would happen. Like, not a damn thing. Can't tell you shit.
Hit the share. Hit the subscribe button. Facebook users, please head over to YouTube. We're almost at 1,000. I know we're a couple hundred away, but literally, I can say that now much better than it was when we was 2 subscribers. At 3 subscribers and 4 subscribers, we're closing in on I think 750 right now. It's been great. The support system has been overwhelming. People love the podcast because of people like Scott and all the special guests that we've had on here. Terry, Chase, Bodie, big shout out to Bodie too as well. Big shout out to Kiki too as well. Don't forget Kiki's no longer with One Time for the Fan, but she's also been a big support and help and major help here with One Time for the Fan. But big shout out to everybody in the chat. DSGB Hall says, "Scott, no bandwagon like Jack." He's talking about the Gonzaga situation when I mentioned the Zags because I'm a Dogs fan, college football. Let me say something before we get up out of here. Hawks, Braves, United, Falcons, Gonzaga.
Speaking my language right there.
Basketball.
Outside, so my teams, Falcons, Braves, I'll root for the Hawks, but like, whatever.
Yeah, you mentioned basketball.
Atlanta United, absolutely. What is it? Chelsea
for Premier League, which I'm a Man City guy.
So I root for Chelsea. We stayed at the Chelsea Hotel when we went to England.
Okay.
And they converted us when I was there. And I was
like, go to Chelsea versus West Ham. Chelsea West Ham was that same week.
I didn't because I was at West Ham.
Okay.
But when we flew in that day, they had a game. And the fans were just cool as hell the whole time. So I was like, I'm down. I'm a fan. Yeah. I'm in.
Chelsea's fan base is pretty sick.
Their fan base was awesome. I'm like, our team sucks.
Nice. But Falcon fans, that's how it is. You know, everybody has different teams. Like I said, I know Falcon fans who are Laker fans, who are Bulls fans, who are Knicks fans, who are Knicks. And then for baseball, they are Marlins, Falcons for NFL. Teams are teams, but I represent my teams very well. A lot of Atlanta gear floating through my whole entire wardrobe. Everything I put on damn near is Falcons. But Gonzaga for college basketball has just been my go-to for years.
I'll never understand.
And hopefully we can beat Purdue. Thank you all.
Good luck.
For being on this podcast. We're going to need it. Thank you all for being on this podcast tonight. Everybody in the chat, everybody here who's been rocking with us since day one. Scott, we will see you draft night, sir. Rise up.
Yes, sir. Rise
Terry,
up.
and we rise out. I guess is what we do, right? We rise up and we rise out. Is that good, Scott? Can we do that?
That's it.
Sure.
Oh, Falcon fans, man.